much, do you? Oh,
No, I don't.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to this episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost. I am your host, Joey McGee, aka Gojin the Makai Phantom, and joining me is once again my bitch, Cody Bratch, aka Kaiju Cody.
you can do it! Cut his freaking balls off!
and also joining is Trev Thom's Cult Classic Corner, who's too lazy to get off his ass and make more content.
Howdy, everybody, and that's not true.
It is too. It's been like almost a year since you've uploaded. And Zach Call.
Fine.
I want to insult Zach, but I don't know what I can say. Damn you.
I keep my cards close to my chest.
That's because Zach is the best of us.
Yeah, I am.
Let me try. Zach, you look dumb and
Never
stupid.
don't insult my looks because I'm very self-conscious.
All I can say,
Okay.
I hope when you make a bowl of cereal, you look in the fridge and there's no milk. That's all I can say.
Hey, I don't eat cereal.
But anyway,
No, you're a dirty coffee drinker just like Joey.
Yeah, I'll take that one.
yeah, that's a W in my book.
That's a big L in mine.
Okay. First, let's
Remember,
read the
folks,
chat.
coffee is for the weak.
I have a child that doesn't sleep at night.
Okay, you have an excuse. Joey just has an addiction that he needs to get rid of.
No, coffee's life.
And I only drink like 1 cup a day.
That's gay. I drink 2, sometimes 3, depending how hardworking I am.
Jeez, wow, you suck, man. You can't even go like a day without a cup of coffee. I challenge you to do that shit. I fucking challenge you to try to go 1 day without 1 cup of Joe.
No.
He'd probably fall over and die.
Good. Maybe you'll come back as someone who doesn't suck.
Tokupunk in the chat said, "My weeb-ass cousin who don't care for kaiju shit loved this show in terms of Gamera Rebirth." Gamera Rebirth, we'll get to that. That's not even going to be the first topic, but I do want to say it's a good show. But I do want to say, I don't know how it could be the only kaiju thing someone likes, especially when you have stuff like multiple Godzilla films, all the Heisei Gamera and such. But it just goes back to my argument that anime fans like the same thing Toku fans do, but it has to be a cartoon. They want our scraps.
Weebs.
Yeah.
Alice said, "I'm here." Tokupunk Productions said, "Coffee is gross. Eat a dick."
Tokupunk, you the Chad here, bro.
All right.
But first topic we're going to get to is, while the main topic, as put in the thumbnail right here, we already know that Monarch, it's Monarch, right? That's what got a trailer, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I think it's called.
Yes.
Yeah, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the legendary Godzilla series. I'm not calling it legendary to call it good or anything, because it is not out yet. But it's the company Legendary.
Legendary Pictures, yeah.
Yeah. And it finally got a trailer. Let's take a look at this.
It honestly looks good. I don't know what I was expecting when I seen this when this show was announced, but it actually looks pretty fun.
Well, let's take a look. It's Monsterverse. Monsterverse stuff, usually, while flawed, also is generally a lot of fun. Like I said, often I'll use stuff like King of the Monsters or Godzilla vs. Kong as comfort food, because they're more laid back in tone, less serious, and it doesn't require too much thinking. And that's one of the things I do enjoy about them. Is it's very clear that I love all the flavors of Godzilla. And if I'm just wanting to relax, they're perfect for that, even though, like I said, they're flawed. But let's see where this one's going. This one seems to be going in the more serious direction of 2014, but let's hope, honestly, it blows 2014 out of the water.
True.
Let's hope, and let's hope that you stop sucking so much dick.
Well, when you keep putting your 2 inches in front of my face, what am I supposed to fucking do?
That's still 2 more inches than you have.
Joey has micro penis.
Kind of small, ain't it?
Okay, let's take a look. Do I have the trailer on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if this is
Russell.
so.
Oh god, that Asian chick is
I
fine.
can't go back in time and fix all the mistakes I made. But maybe I could leave something for the future. A legacy.
And first of all, like I gotta say is, I'm really liking that this seems to be really tying in both origin stories of Godzilla, not origin stories, but both the origins of Godzilla and Kong, because you have John Goodman. You seem to have a lot of the flashbacks of Godzilla back in, 1954. The tone seems to be more in line with 2014. And that's something that I am really digging about this trailer.
Yeah, so let me just kind of reiterate what I wrote out in Discord. To me, even though this is a show, it feels like it's kind of a trilogy capper that starts off with Skull Island and then goes into 2014 and then ends with this. And then the next trilogy of the MonsterVerse is King of the Monsters and the Godzilla and Kong movies. That's the way it feels to me. This is kind of tying up the loose ends.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking, and that's what I'm liking about that.
Yeah, but also on that note, not to throw 2014 under the bus like we did with the last podcast, but I was also thinking, since this involves the Randas, that family being expanded upon, it's actually even more of a direct sequel to Skull Island, except years on, and they're kind of reacting to the attack on San Francisco, which really seems to be the most prevalent event on the rest of the MonsterVerse. You know, we'll probably never see the Brodies again or any of the characters that were unique to that film, 2014, but it seems like Godzilla's appearance is like the most noteworthy thing to take from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say something of the similar vein. If you recall, in the last podcast where we talked about about this show, I talked about how it looks like they're trying to wrap up to make everything feel more like a cohesive whole and make sure everything fits together a little bit better. Basically filling in the gaps, because a lot of people said that at first the MonsterVerse felt a tad disjointed, especially from not just from movie to movie, but also with expanded media like the prequel / in between comics like Awakening and Kong King of Skull Island. You know that and I gotta say, it's really fascinating to see how they're going to do this. I don't think it's the flashbacks are going to be just in 1954. I honestly think the flashbacks are going to be a secondary story that'll probably start in 1946 when Monarch was first formed, and then go up, well, at least according to Kong Skull Island, and then go into 1954 when Godzilla 2014 claims Monarch was formed. I hope to go with my idea where it's like 1946 was when the first group of people who called themselves Monarch came together, but it wasn't until 1954 until they actually became a legit superpower, an organization akin to S.H.I.E.L.D. from the Marvel universe, you know?
Well, yeah, and we also might see, it hasn't been shown off yet to our knowledge, but we'll probably see another generation of the Randa family sometime in like the 80s or 90s, because the main characters of the show are too young to be like the children of Bill Randa, but more like the grandchildren. So we're going to see these characters' parents at some point, I do believe, just to, you know, get into the alienation, the estranged relationship that I'm assuming that they have, because it seems like Bill Randa kind of just became obsessed with proving that monsters existed, and he neglected his family that he had.
Yeah, and there's also the other added layer of the fact that the character Kate, who I am assuming is Bill Randa's granddaughter, has a half brother, which leads even more into the estranged family storyline that you were suggesting there, Trevor. So just for that alone, so far it seems like all the human character stuff that we've been shown about Monarch so far, as much as I tried to defend 2014, the human stuff in Monarch is probably going to blow the human stuff in 2014 out the water.
Well, and it's like I was saying, and I'm not trying to throw it under the bus because there is quite a fan base for 2014. Kind of creates a little bit of a schism in the MonsterVerse community. But it does feel like this is building on, probably one of the most noteworthy characters from Skull Island, which was Randa, and expanding on that, but it's using the 2014 incident to propel us into the rest of the MonsterVerse.
Which again, it helps try to tie everything all together a lot better. So I gotta say, I appreciate Monarch for that. I don't know how well they're going to do, only because in trying to do so, like I mentioned before in the last podcast, they kind of make even more holes mostly because of the character of Lee Shaw's age, because of how old he supposedly is in these flashback scenes versus how old he's going to be in 2014.
Well, yeah, and see, that's also why I think that aside from the description saying it's going to be a multi-generational story, we're going to need a piece of the puzzle that we haven't seen yet, as far as we know, to really, tie the strings together. It's going to have to be the parents of these main characters that create this. They obviously maybe tell the main character, Kate, just how much of a crackpot. Randa was, which in a way it's kind of remaking that story from 2014, but these characters are hopefully going to have more of an impact on what we see from the rest of the MonsterVerse, because by all accounts there's supposed to be something in this show that will come up again in the new Empire next year. So
yeah,
we'll
I honestly think that's going to end up just being Kate being part of the cast, maybe in a supporting role.
Could be, and that would be neat.
Yep.
Give me a second. Fuck. Wrong one, man. My computer is being a fucking asshole.
Oh, I thought you just zoned out. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Give me a second. Now let's get back.
The world is on fire. I decided to do something about it.
Kurt Russell is still as amazing of an actor as ever.
Dreams.
Hell yeah.
Ambitions. The mission was to protect their world and ours.
Gaios!
Yeah.
That's what we wanted Monarch.
I'm kidding. It's clearly Camazot.
Of course. And then we have Godzilla right there.
And also, not to cut you off, Joey, but that shot before, that shot before with the young Shaw, they're getting into a capsule. I want to know what those capsules are for. Is that something to do with the Hollow Earth? Are we gonna? And see, that makes it even more prevalent that even though 2014 was basically the proving grounds for the MonsterVerse franchise, it was basically American studio proving to Toho, hey, we can do this right this time. We're not going to do a 98 like what TriStar did and Emmerich did. We're going to do something that will be closer to, the source material. But with that said, it seems like the MonsterVerse itself really took off with Skull Island. That's where we got more of Monarch and their origins. We got like the mentions, even if they were somewhat vague, to something else related to kaiju or titans, as they would eventually be called. We had the in credit scene at the end of that movie, which set up King of the Monsters. And even though King of the Monsters has characters that we saw in 2014, like with Serizawa and Graham, and even Admiral Stentz, tonally that movie feels more like a sequel to Skull Island, at least in my opinion. And then by the time we get to Godzilla versus Kong and presumably the new Empire, they all build on each other's themes, and 2014 just kind of feels like it's off by itself, tonally speaking, and just it's a self-contained story, but it needed to be because they didn't know it was going to lead to anything else. It was basically a proof of concept, if you ask me.
It was, and 2014 did a good, like, I give 2014 a lot of shit, but it is a good movie. There's more positive I can say about 2014 than negative.
Oh, yeah.
But
it just feels like it's off on its own little island, while the rest of the MonsterVerse kind of builds up on a story that Kong initiates, and then we bring Godzilla into it, and then they meet, and then we go from there.
yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with having a self-contained story at all, because, like, for
Yeah,
example,
it's because, like, the Showa series, there were certain entries in that era that really connected well, and there were ones that kind of just did their own thing and were kind of standalone.
hell, there's even Heisei movies. While the Heisei era, the vast majority of the entries tie together in a bow, there are ones that are more self-contained, like Godzilla vs. Mothra being mainly what comes to mind. Space Godzilla's isn't. I can't remember who fucking said Space Godzilla's was a filler entry, but they're fucking retarded.
Well, especially since that's like the middle chapter of, I think, what me and Cody and some other people have dubbed the Godzilla Jr. trilogy, which kind of wraps up the whole Heisei era.
Yeah, and the one where Miki Sagusa was finally brought into attention as the main character.
Oh, that's definitely her movie for sure.
Exactly. But the thing is, Godzilla vs. Mothra, I'd say that one's more of a self-contained entry. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, Godzilla vs. Mothra is a great movie, even though some fans in the West don't like it. I like it. I agree with the Japanese community. It's a fan favorite over there, and it's like, I can agree with them because I fucking love that film.
It also made a ton of money. I think it's like the highest grossing Japanese film next to King Kong versus and Shin.
Yeah, I think it is. And that's the thing, is the movie's a fan favorite, and even though it's a self-contained entry, it certainly did its job being self-contained. It didn't really need to have any major connection to the other films other than simply existing in the same universe.
Yeah, and even then, we still see sorry, Cody, we see the cosmos in Space Godzilla, so, there's still a little bit of a tie-in.
Exactly.
Look, here's how I feel about it. Just because something's set in the same continuity doesn't mean it has to be completely subservient to what came before it. Something can still tell its own story, but still be in the same series, and it doesn't have to feel disjointed, like some people might say, or like filler, like some people might say. And me, I like Godzilla vs. Mothra 92. It's not my favorite from the Heisei series, not even one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but I still feel it's a very valid entry in the series, in the same way I feel 2014 is a valid start to the MonsterVerse. Well, valid enough.
Yeah, and, like, here's the thing. Like, if anything, I say it makes a perfect example of self-contained entries. Look at the fucking Shin Japan Heroes universe. They barely connect at all, besides having a few little winks that, hey, we're in the same universe, and it's like nobody's complaining there because it's like it's not an issue. Now in the
I mean, in the sorry to cut you off. So in the Shin Japan Heroes universe, they're so self-contained that most people are still arguing about whether they're in a shared continuity at all.
Yeah.
Well, see, and what's fun about that, what I've had fun with here recently, as y'all know in Discord, is that they're up in the air enough where you can say, okay, I think this follows this, even though if it's not explicitly stated.
Yeah, you can interpret the intentions of the artist, and when you look at stuff that Hideaki Anno himself hinted at, and the word of, I forgot what the actor's name was, who's in all of them.
Yeah,
it's definitely interesting to discuss.
Yeah, I agree.
But when it comes to the MonsterVerse, I will say this. When it comes to self-disjointedness of the MonsterVerse, I will say where it does come somewhat of a problem in the MonsterVerse is the MonsterVerse does like to set things up and never finishes them. Like, for example, Jonah Allen, I feel like maybe people say he was underdeveloped in King of the Monsters. I don't think he was underdeveloped as much as he was supposed to be mysterious in that particular movie, but you're meant to learn more about him later. Same with
you know what would have fixed that? And
What's
this is something that was floating around, and I've told y'all this too before. Zach probably hasn't heard it though. I think what they should have done is that they should have made Conrad from Skull Island and Jonah Allen the same character. And for me, it was because there's a slight resemblance between Tom Hiddleston and Charles Dance. And to me, if you look into it, they basically have the same background. It's just that one character went this way and the other went the other direction. But it would have been a very interesting a character arc for him to be, because in Skull Island, Conrad's already kind of just over people. He cares about people in certain cases, or actually, he more cares about the situation with Kong in that movie and wants to, stop Packard from fucking things up, basically. But if you really look at it, Conrad could end up in the same way that Jonah Allen was, because think about it, that's like 50 years from Skull Island to the events of King of the Monsters, and a lot of shit can happen in that time if you're still like a mercenary was he Royal Air Force? He was something with the British Navy or something like that. If you have if you have enough time doing that, I mean, any soldier, any person in that line of work, they're going to see some shit that makes them lose faith in humanity. And anyway, long story short, I could see a through line with Conrad and Jonah Allen being the same character, and that would have fixed a lot of people wanting to know more about Allen, because he would have just been Conrad from Skull Island. Because think about it, in King of the Monsters, we saw an older Brooks,
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just something that I would have done had I been calling the shots. It's just a fun little speculation thing before we saw the movie and found out that Jonah Allen was his own character.
Oh yeah.
In reaction to that, I would say it would break my heart a little bit, only because, well, I really like the character of Conrad, mostly due to the charm that Tom Hiddleston brings to the role with the limited material he's given to work with. But at the same time, it could still be, if done right, a good example of a tragic fall from grace for a character, seeing what the experience on Kong on Skull Island and what came afterwards disillusioned Conrad to the point where he basically became what Jonah Allen was in King of the Monsters. I could see that working if they do it right. So I'd be all for it, even though it would crush my poor widow heart.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that would be good writing. And now, don't get me wrong, I have no issue with how he was handled in King of the Monsters, because King of the Monsters was just supposed to set him up. They wanted you to have questions about who this guy was. And same with Chen. Like, Chen was also an interesting character that they introduced. That's why they dropped breadcrumbs on her connection with Mothra and having two twins over there.
See, I don't know if this was true or not, but I believe Chen and Mark Russell were supposed to get together in the interim between King of the Monsters and GVK. There was something about the original story threads for GVK out there, and I believe that was one of them. And there was even like a whole character played by Jessica Henwick, who was completely cut from the film, and we don't have any details on it. And it's like, we're probably never going to see that footage from Godzilla vs. Kong, but
damn,
I want to know what the actual stuff that they cut was, instead of it just being rumors that circulate in the community. Because I don't know for sure if that thing with Chen and Mark was true or not, but it's actually very interesting, because when you watch King of the Monsters, you can actually kind of see the seed for that being planted, because they basically, at least from Serizawa's sacrifice on, they seem like they're basically the leaders of Monarch now.
And also their chemistry after that kind of reminds me very subtly of Shinjo and Mickey from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. You get the similar vibes to you, Trev?
Yeah, I would, because Chin, she's not only one of the Monsterverse Mothra twins, she's also kind of an update on Miki Sagusa.
Megumi Odaka herself pointed that out too. Like, on her Twitter, I follow Megumi Odaka, and she even posted a pic on there of comparing herself and Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla to how they made Zhang Zi look like Shin, how they made Zhang Zi look like Megumi in 1994, and even she's knowing the parallel. So I think that adds a bit more weight to the claim, as it's more than just fans that are pointing it out.
Oh, for sure. And I would like to see her come back. I don't want to throw Adam Wingard under the bus, because I don't think his intent is malicious, because he has the deal with the studio too. But he also has his own ideas that he wants to bring to the table. And, I don't know if it was the reception for King of the Monsters, or they just wanted to simplify it, which, for better or worse, that's what got everybody in the general audience back on board, and that's why we have a sequel coming. But at the same time, it's a bittersweet thing because you unfortunately have to lose some great character stuff. I mean, that's what you were saying, Joey, is that there's some things they introduce and then they just say, nah, we're not going to elaborate on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I gotta
that's-
say it. You go ahead, Joey. Sorry.
And that's where the disjointed nature actually becomes a problem. Because there's nothing wrong with self-contained, but I do take issue when stuff are introduced, have potential, and it never gets fixed up on. Because like I said, Jonah Allen could have been better. Jonah Allen we could have learned more about Jonah Allen. We could have learned more about Shin. Both of those characters could have been like Serizawa, who, again, Serizawa was introduced in 2014. You were interested in him. He was mysterious. And then King of the Monsters got you to know Serizawa more, and then they finished him off. And I feel like that's where they were going with the other two. They were introducing them to get you to know them better, and then you would have learned more about them. Because that's the thing about those movies, is King of the Monsters did a lot of things 2014 did, in a sense of introducing stuff in a mysterious manner to expand upon it in sequels.
I still kind of wish that they hadn't have killed off Dr. Serizawa or Joe Brody in the previous movie. If you watch a YouTuber who doesn't make content anymore, unfortunately, Up From the Depths, he proposed an alternate scenario that could have made Godzilla 2014 better and would have allowed Godzilla King of the Monsters to remain relatively unaffected. It's just that Joe Brody would have been the one who sacrificed himself to save Godzilla instead of Dr. Serizawa, and Dr. Serizawa could have stayed around, and we could have gotten his reactions in Godzilla vs. Kong to his son basically doing a heel turn. For all my wrestling fans out there, for those who don't know, heel turn means someone turns into a bad guy. But yeah, as much as I love Godzilla vs. Kong, they do unfortunately cut out a lot of character stuff that I wish that had been kept in the final product, mostly because Adam Wingard desperately wanted his movie to just be an hour and 30 minutes long, even though I personally feel like another 20 minutes wouldn't have hurt. But what do I know? I'm not a director.
Another 20 minutes would have been a lot better.
Yeah, there's some very interesting what-if scenarios that we can consider when it comes to the MonsterVerse. But yeah, it all comes down to, I think, Adam had his own ideas, but he also has to try and make something that will turn a profit for the studio. And as much as we love King of the Monsters, and I still think it's the best MonsterVerse movie, it still unfortunately underperformed. So the studio, they feel like they have to kind of change directions a little bit. Now,
God damn it, Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. And all that competition in that month, it was crazy. But yeah, so if the new Empire does really well, because people seem to like seeing Godzilla and Kong together, that's a very potent pop culture thing, is those two together, which is very interesting. And Up From the Depths even went into that, and I think his review or his pre-review for Godzilla versus Kong, he's a very smart dude. I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad he hasn't been active on YouTube, but he still pops up on Twitter every now and then with some thoughts, which is cool. But yeah, so he got into that. It's a very fascinating dynamic between Godzilla and Kong. And I'm glad that gets the mainstream's attention when unfortunately other stuff doesn't seem to. So if the new Empire is successful like Godzilla vs. Kong was, hopefully we'll get to see the return of some Toho monsters like Mothra and Rodan, because I don't think they're going to be in this new movie, but I would like to be surprised. But really, it all depends on the money they make and the fact that they're able to renew the licenses for those characters. And hopefully, and not just monster characters, hopefully they'll bring back these other characters like Chin. And, well, really, she's the only one left that I wouldn't mind seeing come back, because I think we've seen what we need to see with the Russells. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to them coming back, but if anybody could come back, I think it would be Dr. Chin.
I agree, especially since the Russells, those are characters that it's not that they were more than set up. They were the main characters of King of the Monsters. And I'll be honest, I think the Russells are kind of mid. They're not bad characters, but they're not great characters either. They're just serviceable leads. So it's like, I don't mind them, but it's like, they're not the best. That's how I felt. At least
then you're probably going to think I'm a dunderhead for saying this, but in addition to Chen, the only other character I wouldn't mind coming back, the two characters I wouldn't mind coming back are Jonah Allen so his story can be completed, and
True.
Mark Russell, since Mark was honestly my favorite human character from the King of the Monsters movie, and I'll say it right now, he's my favorite human character from the MonsterVerse. I liked following his story of watching him go from hating Godzilla because of the tragic death of his son to making peace with Godzilla and realizing that Godzilla is at times a necessary evil, something that is needed in the world that the MonsterVerse inhabits. And I liked seeing him become deputy director, probably full director, since unfortunately Lance Reddick passed away, the full director of Monarch. So I feel he still has a place in the MonsterVerse as the guy overseeing everything that happens in Monarch. So just for that alone, I say if any characters should come back, it should either be Chen, Jonah Allen, or Mark Russell.
Yeah, and Cody, I'm right there with you with Mark and actually the Russells in general, because I personally feel, I mean, some people care for what they did with the Russells and some don't, and that's fine. It goes either way. But for me personally, personally, I feel like they're actually connected to what's going on, as opposed to, like, say, the Brodies, who are just trying to survive and they're trying to get away from everything that's happening. Because the Russells are part of Monarch, they're right there when everything's going down. So that's why I feel more engaged with their story. And in a way, Mark is we kind of got our cake and ate it too, I guess you could say, because Mark is kind of a redo of Joe Brody, because he kind of has, a situation where he loses family because of a monster. In this case, it's Godzilla and not some secondary monster like the Mutos. And he goes through an arc where he realizes that it really wasn't Godzilla's fault. It was unfortunately a casualty of, something that had to happen.
Yeah, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. And I just want to say a few things. I'm perfectly fine with the Brodies not coming back to the MonsterVerse at all, because A, they killed off the most interesting one, and B, fuck Aaron Taylor Johnson, and also fuck Sam Coleman, and fuck the guy who played him in King of the Monsters. I hope he doesn't come back either.
I thought you were going to say you hope he dies.
So
you don't like Thomas Middleditch?
Yeah,
not at all.
So Zach, what do you have to say, bro? Because we've been kind of overpowering the conversation.
Sorry about that.
I don't really have much to say. I love King of the Monsters a lot.
Yeah,
and I like those characters, and I agree with just about everything you guys are saying.
All right, cool. I just wanted to give you a chance to say something. Hopefully, we didn't hog the spotlight.
I'm a quiet person.
Oh, me too, usually. So,
Alice
Zach,
said,
if I may. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joey. Then I'll ask Zach my question.
Alice said, "What is your favorite animal?" I mean, that's an easy question. Cody's mom is a perfect one. Crazy how she's not in a zoo.
I'm sorry, what was that, Joey? All I heard was "babaluga baluga baluga," and that's the smartest thing you've ever said. So, in all honesty, Zach, well, actually, all you guys here, that big flying thing that flew over that looks like Gauss in the trailer, do y'all think that might be Camazot brought to the screen, like I think it is?
I want to hold out hope that it's Gauss.
that would be cool.
I do too, even though it's unlikely.
I know it's unlikely, sadly.
Yeah, to answer your question, Cody, I think, because there's another shot later, which I think takes place on Skull Island. Actually, it hasn't happened in the trailer yet, but it's where this thing is bursting out of what looks like that ship that we saw. I think it was the Venture in Skull Island. I think there's something bursting out of that, and I think that might be this bat creature, and it doesn't have the same ornamental horns that Camazot's has.
So it's probably new.
Yeah, I'm also thinking that if Camazot's popped up on this, or popped up in this, it might contradict the comic that he appeared in. And, well, I don't know if they care about that or not. They should. But I think there might be a contradiction there. I could be wrong, but I think this might be something similar, which that would be a little frustrating, because it's like we already have a bat kaiju that we could use. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Say what you said about it contradicting what's in the comics. I think what's happening here with guys like What was that?
Explosion.
In terms of contradicting what's been established in the comics, I think they're sort of cherry picking elements from the comics and are probably going to recontextualize it in this show and say, "Oh, those comics, those are just stories that got passed around like Joey's mom did." But here's what really happened with the show.
Okay. We ready to go back to the trailer?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
Monsters. If you come with me, you'll know everything, I promise.
And of course, here's this legendary shot.
Legendary.
Oh, fuck off. It still looks really good. Like, in picture, it looked great too, but in motion, it looks even better. Like, look at that weight right there. This is definitely pushing television boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? And I love how comparatively consistent it is with the 2014 design, unlike the beginning of King of the Monsters, where they sort of half-assed this hybrid between the 2014 and 2019 design. This actually looks like it could be the same creature that went through that bridge. So I got to applaud it for that. And like you said, it looks so much better in motion than what it did in that still image, as epic as that still image means.
Exactly, because here we actually get to see the weight that comes with the movement and get the feel of how big this monster really is. And seeing this side here, we can already see the detail, like the scales and such.
Right. And some other things that they showed in the trailer while we were waiting for this epic shot, they showed shots of what's clearly called Skull Island. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And Bill Randa, since it seems like they're going to be showing us things that we didn't get to see in the movie Kong Skull Island, like here's what was happening while they were building the float. Do you think we might also see other characters from Kong Skull Island come back to reprise their roles for this series too?
I hope so.
Honestly, I don't have any objective argument to make in this regard. Just a feeling. No, I don't think there is. Here's what I think. I think everything we see of John Goodman's character is going to be like on a videotape showing off like his experience with the island. It will be kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know how you have that trope in media? Like, for example, in Scream, you had a character that recorded himself on a videotape explaining the events for future documentation for people who are dealing with a similar thing to know.
Like Randy did for Scream 3.
Yeah, That's what I think this is probably going to be. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I'm getting.
It's a way of them being there without still being there. And it also occurred to me, I was kind of oversimplifying this, I think, before and saying this is the Godzilla 2 that some people wanted before King of the Monsters. But since there's a possibility that we might see some Kong stuff in this, and I was also saying earlier that it feels more like a continuation of Skull Island with the Randa family. That's part of the reason why the show isn't called Godzilla or Kong. They're not in the title. It's because, for one thing, it's about Monarch, but both monsters are featured in some capacity. So it really, again, it ties them together without being a installment that focuses on one or the other.
Yeah.
I think that that they might be reoccurring background elements while the story is mostly focused on the human characters, which I'm all for, because based on this trailer and what we know so far, I honestly think that this might end up being very well done and give us the human characters that most people have been begging for in the MonsterVerse for a while now.
Exactly.
Oh, and also something else that they showed in the back. In addition to revisiting the San Francisco incident, like we clearly see here, and revisiting Skull Island, to what extent we don't know, it looks like they're also revisiting some of the events depicted in the opening credit montage for 2014, namely Godzilla approaching the island where the atomic bomb meant to kill him for the Castle Bravo testing is. Y'all notice that too?
Yeah. So there was that shot earlier, which I think I mentioned over in Discord, Cody, It's where they're painting up the. So it's referred to as the Castle Bravo incident, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah. And so there's that. I don't know, a graffiti. I called it an insignia. It kind of resembles Godzilla, and they kind of put like the mark through him to show that, hey, this is supposed to try and kill this thing. That goes right back to that opening credit scene from 2014. So we're actually going to see it in a form where it's not just like grainy old film footage. It's actually just like scenes that we're going to see, and we're going to get presumably an elaboration on that whole event. Which, like you said, we see the different shot of Godzilla approaching from the ocean, and we see the island in the background. So yeah, we're actually going to see that take place and maybe get some further context as to what they were thinking, which obviously what they were thinking was, hey, we don't know what this is, we're going to try and kill it.
Yeah,
I love the fact that they're recontextualizing and expanding upon elements that have already been established with this. I love that, in addition to bringing in its own stuff and making this feel like more like an organic shared universe. It's awesome. I freaking love that. And also, since you talked about them making that insignia of Godzilla in the thing on the bomb, when I saw that, there was one thing that went through my mind. If there's something strange in the neighborhood, what are you gonna call G-Busters?
What's that called? The red symbol thing that is supposed to indicate, hey, don't go here, or hey, we're gonna knock this out. What's that called? I should know what it's called, but
I honestly don't know. I really don't.
I feel kind of dumb now.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
So anyway,
finish.
No, I was just saying anyway. Yeah, I mean, it didn't really sink in at first, but like I was saying, I thought I was kind of joking and saying, "Hey, this is the Godzilla 2 they put on the shelf," but it's more than that. It's that's one reason why it's called Monarch, is because it's about that whole universe as a whole. But we are still getting a continuation of the impetus event, as they would say, which is the San Francisco attack. But again, it still seems to be flowing into that thing where Skull Island is really what kicked off this whole universe and gave it the injection in the arm that it needed, I guess you could say.
Alice said, how many plot holes does it take to make a movie bad? I'd say that's mostly subjective. Reason why I use the word mostly, because like if it's a minor plot hole and the film has a lot of those minor plot holes and someone says that makes the movie bad, if it somehow ruins the enjoyment for you, that's fine. But I don't think if it's like a very minor plot hole, you shouldn't act like that makes it a bad movie. But if it's a major plot hole, and if there's many of those major plot holes, then yeah, I'd say that's kind of up for the debate on how much those plot holes have an effect on it. I'd say
I can agree with that. I would say that it's mostly a case by case basis in that
mostly,
scenario.
But not completely, but mostly.
Right.
And also, I think another thing to take into account is, like I say in my upcoming video on why I dislike dub, is art. If film,
trash.
Movies, TV shows, and video games are a collaborative art, and it's more than just the writer and director that makes said art good. So, like, if the acting's good, the effects are good, the cinematography, the music, and all that can make up for the incompetent writing, it's like, again, that's also a case-by-case basis, but there are bits of objectivity to there, but still, I think when you
No, go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
But I think when you I think you should also keep in the other elements in mind, like acting, music, and things of that nature, even if there's a fuckload of huge plot holes.
Yeah, so for me, what I put as a priority when it comes to my viewing, whenever I'm viewing a show or a movie, and this is definitely subjective, for me, it's all about how it makes you feel. If you're entertained, then it's done its job. Unless there's some really, really, really glaring plot holes that you can't overlook. If the show or movie sold me and I'm entertained and I'm engaged with what's going on, usually I can overlook those things, because ultimately nothing's perfect. And exactly. I mean, if people want to discuss it, that's fine. But there comes a point where if you focus on that alone, everything will come apart, because everything has flaws if you're looking for them. But
Yeah.
again, there's some things where the flaws are undeniable, and that's unfortunately all you can talk about. So
Exactly. Well, I
Zach, Zach, what do you think about this as a fellow writer? Like, I want to hear your perspective as a storyteller, like I am. What's your opinion on this subject of plot holes?
Zach?
Zach, did you fall asleep?
Oh my god, he died.
he's dead, Jim.
Cody, don't
Oh
fuck
my
his
god!
corpse.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny!
um,
Seriously, no one's gonna say you bastards? Alright. Bunch of uncultured swine here.
Fine.
But yeah, when it comes to that subject, it's usually a case-by-case basis, but not completely. I think people who go into art looking for the bad rather than looking for everything on a neutral basis, I think they're doing critique wrong. It's not about looking for the bad. It should be looking for everything it does, like looking for what it does good, what it does bad, what it does neutral. Just watch with an open mind and find how it executes things. Don't look for a specific element. Like, don't look for a specific quality. Just let the quality find you, if that makes sense.
Here's something I'll say. Now, we've all sort of gotten sick of the MCU, or more so, what the MCU has become. But my family still wanted to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp in the Quantum Realm on Disney Plus when it came out. So I held up my hands and I said, okay, I'll try to enjoy this the best I can, despite me not really being that interested. And on that basis, I could say it was okay. Pretty mid. There were some cool things about it, but also some things that I was not looking for. I was not looking for flaws. I was trying to enjoy it on its own merits, but there was some stuff that irked me. I had to really keep button my mouth to make sure I didn't blurt out what the fuck or something like that. But yeah, in that case, I was able to get some enjoyment out of Ant-Man 3, despite the glaring flaws that it very clearly had, mostly in lack of tone consistency.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cody. I'm sorry.
Like when the evil villain was like the villains when they were trying to do their villain shtick, and they had the characters interrupted. The hero, well, the main hero, Scott Lang, tried to interrupt it with the MCU brand of humor. I was like, oh my god, shut up! In my head.
Yeah, they took the humor thing and kind of went over a cliff with it. My problem, and I've said this to y'all before, my problem with the MCU stuff is that thanks to the heads of Disney needing content to, occupy Disney Plus, they expanded that universe to the point where there's too much to keep up with, and they're also clearly at this point not able to have a consistent quality with all of it. And it's finally reached a head where, yeah, sure, there's some people who are still on the ride to the end. But for me, it's just the quality is definitely starting to lack because it's spreading itself too thin. And with the MonsterVerse, I hope it never reaches that point. See, I love superheroes and monsters about equally. And it'd be very interesting to see if a universe with monsters could get to the point where there's so much of it that I'm just over it. That'd be a very interesting threshold to see if they could test that limit. But I really hope, yeah, I hope they don't. I hope they don't spread themselves too thin. If they have an ending in mind for this whole thing, then they should just end it, because there's definitely a time where, excuse me, there's a time where stories go past the point where they should have, and they should have just left it at a certain point.
Yeah.
So
Togopunk Productions. No, you finish.
I was just gonna say, I like what they say they're doing with the MonsterVerse, where they're trying to tell a story where they're having movies that can build off of what was established in the movies before, but can also stand on their own enough to be a ending to the whole series if it needs to be. So I respect them for that. That's the approach they took with Godzilla versus Kong, and they said that's what they're going to do with the movies going forward. So I hope they stay true to that ideal.
Because see, what everybody's been pitching, what everybody's been suggesting, provided they can end up getting some of these Toho monsters, is that they want to see a destroy all monsters kind of scenario where possibly Destroya is the big bad. Which, that sounds like a very good idea to me, because Destroya in his original film was basically an embodiment of the oxygen destroyer, and he probably would have killed Godzilla had Godzilla not had that extra ordinary amount of energy, because he was basically terminally ill, about to die. And if you apply Destroya to the MonsterVerse as like these ancient parasite things, it does feel like it's something that would be a big finale kind of threat.
Right. I would be cool if they went that route too with Destroya in a Destroy All Monsters type of scenario. I actually remember you and I added that into our hypothetical continuation of the MonsterVerse, which was really fun to work on. Had fun working on that with you, Trev. But
it was
it was as fun as that would be. Like I said, if they can find organic stopping point, because the MonsterVerse just isn't profitable anymore, can't get to that point, I'd be fine with it. Again, so long as it's a satisfying ending. Like, for all the flack I give GVK, the way it ended still seemed to me like it could have been a good enough ending on its own if they decided not to make any more movies. So I'm hoping, like I said, I'm just hoping that that keeps going with each additional MonsterVerse entry.
Yeah, really the proving grounds is this show and the next movie, depending on how well they're received. If people don't turn up for them, then that's going to be it.
Yeah.
Right.
As Tokupunk Productions said, Ant-Man 3 is the worst movie I ever watched. It's true torture. I never had a more miserable time watching a movie than Ant-Man 3. It made me go out of MCU for good. Huh?
I still haven't seen it. The last MCU thing I saw was Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness.
I think I was the same way.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Tokupunk, how are you going to say that when Captain Marvel still exists?
Yeah, and even that I doubt is the worst movie ever made. It looks terrible, don't get me wrong, but I doubt it's the worst film ever made.
But in all honesty, I don't care enough about Ant-Man 3 to try to defend or detract it, whatever. I just was giving an example. Fuck Ant-Man 3, fuck the MCU. We're talking monsters right now. The real shit.
Yeah, well, we just had to make a comparison because for so long that was kind of the only thing Hollywood was making that people liked when it came to genre stuff. Or
Right.
that was the impression you got from social media.
Alice said, question, do you think the Earth is flat? If you're referring to Cody's mom's chest, yeah, it's very flat. Seriously, I know. I do not believe the Earth is flat.
What a stupid question.
Yeah.
Hey, so Zach, is your mic working again?
Zach said his mic isn't working. Like, Zach, let me tell you something. Try leaving and then coming back with that link I sent.
He already did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. Quiet. Let Zach try to talk. Yes, he did.
He didn't, though. I removed him and then added him back, but he was still, like, for example, I removed him again. He's still in the chat room. Now, Zach, try moving from the chat room, and I'll add you back. Okay. Tokupunk Productions said a flat chest is a status symbol, so Cody's mom is a Chad then.
No, they're a carpenter's dream because they're flat. Flat as a board.
Okay, Zach, are you back?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There he is.
Awesome.
Yes.
My brother has returned.
So
But yeah,
I think it was just the StreamYard being weird.
Yeah.
It seems to be pretty glitchy sometimes.
Now, about your perspective as a writer on plot holes.
Oh, yeah, my stuff's probably got a lot of plot holes.
Fair enough. But let's go back to the trailer. Finish, Cody?
Yeah. No. Go ahead and play the rest of the trailer.
I like that font.
I do too.
It is good. I gotta say, I'm really glad that they're calling it Monarch Legacy of Monsters instead of like some sort of misleading title like Godzilla and the Titans, which is what it was rumored to be for so long. It was even the name on the official Wikipedia page for so long. I don't know why. A fun fact: apparently, someone from Apple TV Plus, actually went in and re-edited the Wikipedia article themselves to match the official title. So
it could have been the working title, Godzilla and the Titans. That's what I was thinking.
First, I want to say, Anna Sawai is gorgeous, and everyone knows that how I am with Asian women, but outside of that, since she's Japanese, I think they're gonna try to bring more of a Japanese flavor to this style, since that's where Godzilla came from, and usually when kaiju media like Pacific Rim adds a Japanese character, it's kinda to pay tribute to the Japanese movies that inspired it.
Well,
hey Joey, could you go back I don't know if it's a second or just go back right before this. Yeah, see with the hands right there.
Okay. Oh shit. Oh no, shit. YouTube
No, play. There we go. So, based on the photo one of the photos that was released, that's Bill Randa on the left there, and then that's his wife, whatever her name is. And apparently, that's the trailer makes it look like Kate Randa, Anna Sawai, is maybe watching something like that, or probably not, because this looks like an actual scene that's not like footage or anything, which wouldn't make sense because that would be like a home movie. But anyway, they're trying to, I think the trailer's trying to communicate the fact that she's thinking on that family legacy, and that there's kind of something missing there. There's probably the impression that the family wanted to know Bill more than they did, but he was so consumed by his obsession that he kind of missed out on a lot, which, that's what he's kind of saying in that archival footage, is that, he made mistakes, but hopefully what he did for Monarch will be his legacy.
If I may, I think that we're so going back to what I suggested, where they're going to trade off point of views from different time periods. Like, I think this will be part of the secondary story set in the 40s to the 50s, assuming that's what they do. And that they'll spend 10 minutes on the 2014 story, then shift to the flashback for 10 minutes, and then go from there until the whole story is told. And I just that's just my own interpretation. And I gotta say, the girl playing Kate, I still think she's mighty fine. All other people who say otherwise are.
Now that I've seen her more, I can agree. She's a cutie patootie.
Exactly. Like, y'all want an example? Cute. Like, one minute. Fuck. Give me a second. Look at that ass there. That's her.
Damn!
And then this turned to Gojin After Dark.
Yeah. Like, seriously, she's got a nice ass.
I'll be right back, fellas. I'll be right back.
Like.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear God. Turn your mic off.
Turn your mic off.
She got a thick ass. A nice one.
I was going to say that she's cute in a girl next door kind of way, but now I'm seeing all this, and all I can think is, pour some sugar on me.
Of course, people are going to see that thing at the bottom says the fappening blog. Leave me alone. I'm a degenerate. Let me be a degenerate in peace.
Yeah.
Hey, it's like Toku Punk said, Joey, deep down, we are all degenerates.
My poor virgin eyes.
Said, yum. What's that?
My poor virgin eyes.
A virgin who has a child. How does that work? I don't know.
He's adopted. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But to another thing I want to add, it still blows my mind that we got Kurt Russell in a Godzilla project, something I wanted for so long. I have a list of favorite actors. Yes, I made a list. Shut up. I have a lot of free time. Anyways, I'm just like, you know what would be cool if Kurt Russell was ever in something Godzilla? And lo and behold, I got my wish. Now, to the fairies who are granting my wishes, I would like $3 billion to magically appear in my bank account.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, for me, that's kind of like the same thing as having John Goodman and Samuel L. Jackson in a King Kong movie.
Oh, I know. I gotta say, as much as I love, as I said, Mark Russell was my favorite character, and Dr. Serizawa is afterwards. I think that, comparatively speaking, Kong Skull Island has the best cast of human actors, not characters, actors, because they got Tom Hiddleston, they got John C. Reilly, they got John Goodman, they got Samuel L. Jackson. I'm like, all they were really missing was Jack Black or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, also to think, Skull Island, originally the Packard and the Randa parts, I don't remember who was who, but originally J.K. Simmons and Michael Keaton were supposed to be in there.
What?
Yeah, and they couldn't because of scheduling conflict. So that's why we got John Goodman and Samuel L. Jackson.
Alice Cody's mom versus Godzilla. So you're asking for a Godzilla versus Kong sequel.
Rude.
It's okay. These plebs, quote unquote, insults bounce off me like bullets off of Superman's chest. So I'm okay. I'm good.
Just like Trevor on your dick.
Oh man.
See, you get it.
As much fun as I'm having, I'm very
Trev
anxious to get to the turtle.
Huh?
Oh yeah. We better wrap this up.
Yeah.
So,
in short, I gotta change the title of this stream. I gotta put Gamera. I gotta put Monarch trailer reaction in the title after this is said and done.
Thank you for keeping us on topic, Zach.
You're welcome.
yes.
And 2, this trailer looks amazing. Honestly, this has potential to be the objective, not subjective. Like, I'm gonna take my entertainment out and just go on based on quality. This has potential to be the best of the MonsterVerse, because if this doesn't have the plot holes, the disjointed nature of the other movies, or characters that are just there but not developed, this could be a masterpiece. But
agreed.
Yes, sir.
Did I agree with that?
Did I hear that there's 12 episodes?
I think there's 10. I think there's 10. Yeah, but it's gonna play like a long movie, so it's gonna have a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
Yeah, but anything you guys have to say about Monarch? Anything else?
It looks fun, and I hope that's Gauss.
Yeah.
I will die on this hill until I'm proven wrong.
It looks fun, and I hope that's Camazot.
Yes.
Camazotz would be cool too, because I like my bat kaiju. Bagora from the Dark Horse is really fun kaiju.
Yes.
Bagora is a fucking Chad.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Let's take a look at what this stream was originally titled. Like I said, I'm gonna put Monarch in the title later, because there was an hour worth of focus on the Monarch trailer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what we're doing now is the Gamera Rebirth review and discussion.
Okay, first of all, this show is fucking glorious. Woohoo!
Agreed. Anyone want to do the honors of doing the plot summary?
Wait, what?
I guess I'll do it. I guess I'll do it. In 1989, in an alternate universe, 1989, where we can travel to the moon, 4 normal kids are trying to go about their day and living their lives, when all of a sudden they're thrust into a worldwide conspiracy that involves giant monsters that suddenly appear. Most who come to destroy us, and one who comes to protect us. It seems to have a vested interest in protecting the kids specifically. They become involved with a secret organization whose might or might not be trying to protect or destroy the world with the help of these kaiju. Which kaiju? You'll have to watch the show and see. Would you say that's enough description?
I'd say so.
Yeah. You nailed it.
Just like I nailed
Shabba!
it.
Wow.
He's a senior chaser. Because they're the only ones who will touch him.
Dang.
Oh, God. But I think it's a really good show. Like, for example, I want to say I love how this show is basically a remake of the entire Showa era, condensed in episodes of a television series. Like, for example, you have a lot of the Showa monsters. You have similar stories. Like, a lot of time it pays homage to the Showa era. Like, hell, the final episode, since there's no more Showa monsters to throw in there, the final episode is literally basically just a better, far better version of Gamera, the super monster, with the entire plot of it, how it ends, as things of that nature. And when it comes to how it develops its story on basically the monster stuff, like, everything feels overall mostly connecting. Though I will say there is a plot point I didn't like that wasn't really developed in it. Like, for example, why does it have to be kids that the monsters are after? Like, there's this special child thing the story is going with, where if the monster gets the child, the world will be destroyed. It's like, one, why are these monsters wanting to eat children in specific? If, like, does the children, like, are children, are adults too big for these giant ass monsters to eat?
No, children just taste
Probably
better.
not. Probably not because
the cops on you, Zach.
probably not because we also catch the monsters eating adults too. Their children are probably their preferred meal. You know, kind of like Pennywise the clown from Stephen King's It. But if they're hungry enough, they'll eat adults too.
Yeah, but
I
they don't really
think
explain.
you have to. Sorry, guys. I think you have to kind of get like symbolic and existential about it, I guess you'd say. And children are, to quote the saying, children are the future. They're the fountain of youth. They're the untapped potential or unlimited potential, potentially. That's hard to say. But if you think about the whole coded thing that this show brings up, which is, I believe, a reference to Asagi and the priestess beads that were from Guardian of the Universe. It's a reference to that, I do believe. I don't know. I think they had to find a way to acknowledge the fact that the Showa series was aimed at kids, but at the same time they took a path that was more like Gamera the Brave, tonally speaking. But Joey, you actually brought up a good point about Super Monster. This is kind of a remake of Super Monster.
But better.
Well, yeah, but definitely better. Like the thing, like with the turtle that they see at the start. In Super Monster, there was this whole kind of dumb thing going on with the kid in that movie where he thought that his turtle turned into Gamera, which I think was itself a reference back to the original movie. But yeah, it definitely feels like a better Super Monster, which for one thing has the opportunity to not use stock footage and actually expands upon each monster for an episode. And
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Are we going to do spoilers for this review?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, it's been out for 2 weeks now, right?
Yeah. Go back to what you were saying, Trevor. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
One second, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which one is Super Monster again?
That's the very last one. Basically, a big O stock footage parade, and they had the original plot for that movie was this kid and the 3 super women who couldn't use their superpowers because if they did, the villain of the film, which is a big spaceship, which is a ripoff of one of the Star Destroyer or these Star Destroyers from Star Wars. If the super women changed into their superhero identities and used their powers, they would basically get killed. So that was an amusing little plot that they had there. But anyway,
I don't think I've seen that one.
You don't think you have?
Yeah.
Well,
you don't need to.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't think it's as bad. To be honest, I actually kind of like it better than All Monsters Attack. I know that's a really hot.
You guys are fucking high.
I agree with you.
You guys are fucking high.
The main thing with that is that in All Monsters Attack, everything happens in Ichiro's head basically, but with Super Monster, the events are actually happening in whether it's the universe that the other movies take place in or its own. It's still actually happening in that movie. And yeah, it's all a bunch of stock footage. It's basically each fight from the previous movies because Zach, basically the villain of the film, the Star Destroyer Xenon, I think it's called, or not Star. It's not called Star Destroyer. It looks like a Star Destroyer. It's the alien is called Xenon, I think. Basically, he sends all of Gamera's previous foes to attack him to basically try and kill him, and it's stock footage from the other movies. But oddly enough, it doesn't bother me because those fights were pretty cool. And like there's some of those entries that I don't really care for at all, like Gamera versus Virus or Guiron. Or Zigra kind of depends on what day you catch me where I like it, or sometimes I don't. To me, it kind of cuts out the bullshit from those movies and just has the action with that particular kaiju versus Gamera. So I think that's kind of why I like it. And I also kind of like the human story, even if it's absurd as fuck. It's I don't know, it's oddly endearing.
There's things I like about Super Monster, very minor things, but overall I think it's a terrible movie. Still better than Godzilla's Revenge, though. But I don't think
it's not.
I don't think the show's just a remake of Super Monster. I think it's basically the entire Showa era condensed. As, like, for example, like even Guiron, he was in a very similar situation as he was in his own movie, and he was even released similar to how he was in his own movie. Like the show honestly is basically like a condensed version of the Showa series, and I think if it gets a season 2, like Sashida and Kadokawa are wanting, it'll be the Heisei era next. And since there's no Millennium series or second Heisei of Gamera, you only have the Brave, and that he would Zetas would also be probably included there. But that's what I think. I think this was basically the Showa era condensed. That would be the Heisei era condensed if they do a second movie. And that's one of the things that I think makes
Season, you mean?
Huh?
You said movie, you meant to say second season.
Yeah, second season. Thank you for correcting me there. I'm talking fast like Ben Shapiro. but yeah, there's definitely a lot. Huh?
Hey Zach, do you own the movies?
Gosh, I don't think I do. I don't think I own this. I have the Heisei trilogy.
Gotcha.
But I don't have
own both sets by not by Shout Factory. Which company released them again?
Oh, Arrow. Arrow did those really nice sets that came out recently. But before that, the reason you're thinking of Shout is because Shout did some releases where they had the original movie and versus Barugon solo releases, and then everything else was a double feature. And then they lost the rights to those. Lost the rights to them, although I think they can still stream them. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's the reason.
Yeah, they're on Tubi.
Oh yeah, well that's why I was asking Zach if you have access to actually a bunch of different free services like Tubi, Pluto. You will be able to find Super Monster on there or any other Showa films that you haven't seen if you're so inclined for free.
I think I've seen all of them but Super Monster.
Yeah, so I know for sure that it's on Pluto. I think it might be on Tubi. If you have Amazon Prime, all the movies are on there. I think people don't talk about this service enough, but Midnight Pulp has all the Gamera movies, I do believe, as well as some of the Showa Godzilla films. But yeah, there's actually a lot of streaming options for the Gamera films, and if you're curious, I think it'd be well worth your time to see what you think of Super Monster.
I do agree with Trevor there. I think Super Monster is trash, but I do think you should give it a watch to see if you at least enjoy it.
Because yeah, it's not a great movie, but I mean, there's still. I mean, I'm okay with the general premise. I just think it could have been executed better.
Like,
I mean, there is such a thing as so bad it's good movies that you watch purely for the entertainment of how bad they are, which I feel most of the Showa Gamera series fall into as well.
Well, here's a valid critique someone could throw, a valid interpretation someone could give. I don't agree with this interpretation. I think they only went this route to be lazy and because they didn't have a lot of money. But this is a valid interpretation someone could give. Someone could give this. Someone could be like, Dai was running out of money. So to save Gamera, they wanted to bring Gamera back. They wanted to conclude the Showa era of Gamera with this epic condensed version of the Showa era in one movie.
Yeah,
Well-
but here's the problem with that interpretation. Rather than feeling like a finale to the Showa series, it feels more like they're both trying to reboot it and end it at the same time, and that sort of clashes because Gamera in Super Monster, it's not the same Gamera from the Showa series. He's a supposedly, I guess, a manga character that somehow is brought to life into the quote unquote real world of Super Monster somehow. So in that way, it's disjointed from the others, but at the same time subservient to them because of the fact that it uses stock footage from all of them.
You know
Oh,
what?
yeah,
I actually forgot about that. I need to rewatch that.
Oh, yeah,
But
I think
go ahead.
Oh, it's right here.
Where are you
What's
looking?
that?
Zach?
Tubi.
Okay, yeah, so it's on there. I knew that Tubi had all of them at one point, and then they dropped Gamera 2 and 3, and they just have Guardian on there. And they have like I don't know if it's the Mystery Science Theater 3000 versions, or they have some dubbed versions of the other Showa films on there. They used to have all of them, I think, and then at some point when I wasn't watching, a bunch of them dropped off there. But I guess Super Monster is one of the ones that's still on there.
Yeah, it's under Elvira's movie Macabre.
Oh, I would suggest. Well, here's the thing. That's I don't know if that would be the best way to watch it for the first time, because that's going to have. I don't know if she just has her little sections where she like introduces it and interjects throughout, but that may be okay. That might be an okay way to watch it.
But yeah,
But,
I do agree with you, Cody. Just like, for example, like someone might see it as like maybe they were wanting to end the series off not by being a actual conclusion of the Showa era, but by being by being kind of like a best of the Gamera of the Showa films. What would you say about
really, what it was actually, Cody's on the right track that it was a bit of a reboot, because actually Daiei by that point was well and truly bankrupt, and they were trying to come back as a company, and I can't remember who was assisting them at the time for Super Monster, but there was another company involved with that, and this was their effort to try and revive Gamera, but they still didn't really have any budget to speak of, and well, the final product obviously didn't relaunch the series like they wanted it to, so it kind of comes across like a last gasp for the Showa era, even though technically the last film for that was versus Zigra, the last one that I actually made.
I
definitely
agree on that.
That's also why the real reason why we never see the alien superwomen doing anything, because, well, they didn't have the budget to do it. They only had enough budget to show a few shots of the cheap Star Destroyer knockoff, and then one shot of Gamera walking by and knocking over a sign advertising a Godzilla movie, trying to be like, Gamera superior, Godzilla inferior, even though, well, Toho sure wasn't on the verge of bankruptcy, now was it?
Yeah, it's funny. Maybe it's just the fact that I like schlock, but I don't know. There's something kind of charming about it, even if it is a bad movie.
Look, that's fine.
So bad as good as this thing.
Yeah, and also, even though I do consider Super Monster a bad movie, the basic premise of Gamera fighting all these monsters is not a bad idea. It just had poor execution in Super Monster, in my opinion, but it was done better here in Rebirth. If I may, I'd like to do a little analysis of the plot of Rebirth and say what my own interpretation of it. Now,
yes, please. We kind of got stuck in a Super Monster hole. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
It's okay. Now, with this show, I pretty much agree with what everyone said, that it's basically a condensed version of the Showa movies, because it's all the better for it. Because the plots for the Showa movies aren't really bad, in my opinion. It's just that, well, they were paper thin. They weren't long enough. There wasn't enough plot to sustain a full-length feature like what they wanted, so they sort of had to stretch them, and the movie sort of drag as a result. So that, plus the annoying children actors, and also the really bad special effects, even for the time. Most of those old Gamera movies, I'm going to say, are really bad. They're not bad ideas, but the executions, for the most part, are really bad. I'd say the first movie, Barugun and Gauss, are the only ones that come close to being actually good.
And if I can interject for a moment, Cody, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I actually said on Twitter the other day, because I have a different opinion on the original movie. I'm actually surprised that Gamera became a franchise because I'm not really a fan of that first movie. I like the second one. I like the third one, Introduction of Gauss. Basically, anything with an alien invader in the Showa series, the kaiju themselves are cool, as the show ended up demonstrating. Virus, Guiron, and Zigra. But those movies, man, are they a chore? At least in my opinion. And I actually like Jiger. I think it's kind of a little bit below Gauss in terms of quality. It's a kid-focused entry, but it's, for whatever reason, for me, I think it's better than all the ones with an alien invader. So really, for me, the three movies from the Showa era I like are Barugon, Gauss, and Jiger. That's my Showa trilogy. But anyway, you were saying.
Right on. Good. I actually like that interjection. You said a lot of stuff that, well, I'd fist bump you, except you're in Texas and I'm in Washington, so can't do that. So, anyways.
Relationship, here we go.
So, anyways, at least you can tell, at least with the first three first three episodes, maybe the first four of the show, with a little bit of rewriting, they kind of feel like they could stand on their own as short films. At least that's how I feel. And then it isn't until like the second half of the series where you're like, no, everything is ties together. You have to watch everything to get it all. Just how I feel. How I feel. But I like how they were able to make everything tie together. Like I said, they condensed down the Showa series and then replaced all the draggy, annoying parts with Easter eggs to the whole Gamera franchise, which I really appreciated, and a human cast that is actually interesting and engaging to follow. We have children who aren't annoying, at least not in my opinion, and actually feel like real children. They feel like real kids that are put in a situation where like it's really hard for them to get through. They just barely skirt by. They don't feel like they know better or anything, or like it doesn't feel contrived at all. It honestly feels like an 1980s kid group adventure movie was done with a kaiju twist to it. We have movies like Stand By Me, The Goonies, Monster Squad, The Sandlot, and also, I don't care how mad this makes Toku Punk because he's objectively wrong, Stranger Things. It's clear that that in addition, whether it's intentional or not, or they're taking inspiration from those old movies, Gamera Rebirth does feel a lot like Stranger Things with some of the elements they put in.
Yeah.
I agree. And also, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, there's a lot of other nods to other kaiju movies. In the first episode with the Gauss, I thought the way they were leading up to that reveal reminded me a lot of Versus Megaguirus with the Meganula and the Meganulon running around in Tokyo before everything floods over. That's the vibes that I got. And speaking of which, Versus Megaguirus is very underrated, just so y'all know.
It is.
Hell yeah. I also get Legion
Megaguirus.
vibes from it. I also get Legion vibes from how they set up the Gaios in that first episode too.
There's
Oh
also
yeah, for
bits
sure.
of-
And
There's
Go
also
ahead, Jim.
bits of the Brave in there, especially at the beginning, where the first thing they find of Gamera is he's this small turtle that they catch and release, and then he comes back as a giant monster that protects them. Like, while this is mostly the Showa era condensed, there's elements of the Heisei and other kaiju movies thrown in too to spice things up a bit.
And
Well,
also
and
the format of how the format of how they handle the monster fights. There has a very big Ultraman vibe to it, where it's a lot of the human characters at first, then they introduce the evil monster to wreck shit, and then they bring in the good guy at the end to stop the evil monster. That feels like that's basically the plot structuring of an episode of Ultraman, and they applied that here to this show, but in place of Ultraman, we have Gamera. Would you all agree with that description?
I agree 100%.
yeah, and also there was some Pacific Rim nods. Not only did they actually mention by name the Pacific Rim, there were some things with the U.S. Military there at the base in Japan that was kind of like how the Rangers operate, and even the Eustis Foundation, whenever they were talking, having their Zoom conferences, for lack of a better term, that kind of reminded me of whenever Stacker was talking to the council during that one moment in the first Pacific Rim, and there was definitely a lot of vibes for that. And something that I surprisingly liked, which I don't usually focus on, was the way that the self-defense force operated. The fact that they were all on standby. There was a nice, cool little bit with the one, I think he was a general, and the one lieutenant, where she would peek in every now and then and, communicate with them what was going on. That was a nice little reoccurring bit. And I also liked in the final episode the way they were all stationed on that island. It was a nice kind of fortress effect where they were all holed in that one location, and that the tanks and the various weapons were all laid out, and they were smart about the tactics that they used to fire on that one super Gauss. The subtitle said S Gauss, so I interpreted that as a super Gauss. It was very neat how they use their tactics to try and weaken the monster, because usually we watch these movies and these shows and we think, oh, they're just firing everything they have and it's not working. But sometimes it's really neat to see the actual tactics of it, which actually kind of reminded me of the scene, or I guess it's a scene. It's basically part of that moment in the third act of Gamera 2, where the self-defense force is all planning things out and they're being very strategic about it. It's something that I usually don't care for necessarily, but I thought it was really neat how it was done here.
Yeah, and then adding on to what you said about the Pacific Rim influences, there's also a bit of it in the music for the fight scenes, because while the fight scene music is mostly based around hard rock, which I really appreciate that, because fuck yeah for hard rock. I love rock and roll. And also, there are times where in addition to the guitars, you have a bit of an orchestral accompaniment that sounds eerily reminiscent to the main theme and motif from Pacific Rim. The da na 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 na. You all hear that at any point?
Yeah, Gamera's theme for sure. They were trying to do the badass guitar riff thing. I would have to watch it again to really see if it sticks out and becomes something super memorable. But I appreciate that effort to, again, it calls on Pacific Rim, but it's also an effort to give Gamera a new theme. Really, when I was watching this, I kind of, in the back of my head, was thinking, man, I really wish the Heisei trilogy theme would pop in here. It would be so epic.
Yes.
You mean that da na 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 da 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 da?
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, they had like the I don't know what you call it, but from Gamera 2, how they had that like I'd have to pull it up because I don't know what to call it. But like it's like a horn maybe.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like how they had that that sort of thing. They kind of had that in there too.
Right on. So I don't know how to. Well, actually, I do know. I like the scene that they did bring in, but at the same time, I wish they had. I agree with you. I wish they had brought in the Heisei theme. But in all honesty, Gamera's never really had a consistent theme, one that's as consistent as Godzilla's. But
yeah.
And also, I don't really care for the theme that they did give him in the original Showa series. It's just really not my flavor. Having said that, though, it still blew my mind that they included it in the final episode as an acoustic guitar piece. I'm just like,
yeah, that was awesome.
I'm gonna keep it $1.50 with y'all, as Joey would say. I actually got a little emotional hearing that at the very end. It may have been
too.
Yeah, it may have been
too.
Y'all need Bully McGuire in your lives. Gonna cry.
Whatever.
It may have been because of Joe's sacrifice, which was admittedly emotional. I mean, it didn't hit me super hard, but it was still pretty sad. But just the way it wrapped up and then it ended with that the theme, it did choke me up a little bit, surprisingly.
Well,
For me, it was the fact that they really didn't have to do that. I mean, everything else about this show is so good, so fucking good that the fact they're clearly fans enough, or at least care enough about the actual fans of the show, respect the fans enough. They're like, hey, we're gonna throw you a little bone. So here's Gamera, but they turn it into this sweet little acoustic ballad, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you bastards! You made me like a song that I didn't like before. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, see, it's funny. It's funny that I don't really like the majority of the show series, but that song, it never did bother me. I mean, it's very cutesy and very kiddie, but it's also classic in a way.
I do want to say, in terms, since we're on the music of this show, I do want to say, in terms of the fighting music, they do give Gamera one hell of an interest. Like, come on. He goes from absolutely ripping and tearing on Gao, so when he throws him from afar, and his iconic fire attack it's just plain orgasmic. And I just want to say, like, the musical score on that is very upbeat. It gets the adrenaline pumping, and it has a metal-like sound that goes with it that is just very exciting.
Yes.
Oh, I already brought this up to the others, Joey. I'll bring it up to you. Did the fight music accompanying Gamera's fights sound a bit like the main theme / motif of Pacific Rim to you at all?
Yeah, I'd say so too. There's actually a lot of things in this show that kind of remind me of Pacific Rim the Black and Pacific Rim as a whole that I just really enjoyed. But like I said, that theme right there, it really set the mood for whenever Great Gamera would show up to wreck shit up. And it would just go to a very badass rock song. Because, like, generally, it would go to the kids all afraid, running from the kaiju. And then when Gamera shows up and this music starts playing, it's like, it really sets the mood from the fear those kids are feeling to, hey, everything's safe now. This giant, iconic monster is here to save the day, and I'm all for it.
Right
yes,
on.
Sir.
And also, it knows how to be heartwarming, too, because as you guys said, when it came to the ending song, that shit was beautiful. Like, the music on its own can be very relaxing. Like, when the boys are riding on their bikes to the forest, it's so calming. It matches the wholesome mood of innocent children going out to hang. Even if there's a Rick the Squirrel hanging around the bushes.
Hey, so on the note of the music, it actually reminds me, it's something they didn't have to do, but and since it's over the end credits, it also reminds me of King of the Monsters, where they have the classic themes for like Mothra, and they play over the credits, and you don't realize how important that is for the fans. That you're like, hey, you've been with this for years and years, and we're gonna like Cody said, we're gonna throw y'all a bone.
Yeah,
and I don't think it was pandering at all. I think it was a genuine olive branch that they were extending to the fans, saying, hey, we care about what you guys care about, so we're gonna do the best that we can for you here. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that is the thing. The music overall, I'd say they did a really good job with it. I can't go too deep since this was my first viewing. Like, I'll go way deeper into this show when I do a Gojin reviews down the road.
Oh, you want to go deep, all right.
Oh my gosh.
Just like I go deep into your fucking throat.
Oh, wait.
Oh, man.
Oh, shit. Fuck. You got me. I could have thought of something, but at the same time, I'm focused trying to review this fucking show, whereas Joey's over here just saying, okay, joke checklist, talk about putting something in his throat, check. Okay, what else is next?
That's his modus operandi, his MO.
The kids, I do want to...
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The kids do have a fun dynamic, similar to films like The Goonies and Monster Squad and Stranger Things, Cody pointed out. Like when they're going in a tunnel, they get together and start referencing movie tropes, and that really helps with the tone of this show taking place in the 1980s. And I swear to God, taking inspiration from them. And overall, like one of my favorite member of the team is probably the white kid. Don't worry, I'm not racist. Please don't kill me.
You a racist bastard.
I was just sipping over an Asian woman's ass earlier. Come
Well,
on.
hey, speaking of racism, man, I don't know if it was like this in the subtitle version or
It was.
the Japanese language one, but when they introduce Brody, that's not his real name, that's what he goes by. But man, he and his friends, they're just being blatantly racist to the kids whenever they meet him. It was like, holy shit, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
Exactly, and that worked because the thing is, he's a character me and my siblings wanted to die in the first episode. He was that bad. But that's the thing. The fact that he made you that angry is what made it so effective. So when his redemption is so strong, he becomes one of my favorites of the show. As you can tell, he's trying to redeem himself. And moments like him hearing out these kids he once bullied to try to comfort them is all the more effective from it. Like, there's this one kid, I forgot the kid with the glasses name. Like, again, I only seen the show once, so the names haven't stuck with me.
Junichi.
Yeah, Junichi, when he finds out that person's a girl, actually, he starts to be like, oh shit, I bullied her. And then he starts to see her in a whole new light. He starts to get all blushy because he's like, you know what? I was an asshole. And you know what? She's actually pretty fine.
Actually, I don't think that he just suddenly turned a corner on his feelings about her. I think those feelings were already there, underlying, but he didn't know quite how to explain them because, well, as far as he's concerned, he's a straight guy. He's into girls, and at the time, he thought Junichi was a boy. I'll be honest, so did I. But looking back, I gotta say, watching the show again, yes, I watched this twice, and I gotta say, yes, this show does have staying power. It does have legs, and I don't mean Emiko's, but in all honesty, going back and rewatching it and knowing what you do about the show, it really recontextualizes a lot of the earlier things in the show, like how they treat Junichi, how she acts, how they act towards her, and also some of Emiko's behavior in the first half of the series when she suddenly does her heel turn at the start of episode 5, and she suddenly turns into like a whole nother person, which is great acting and great writing on that part. But anyways, I'm just saying, I think he already had feelings for her and he just didn't know it. And when he found out she was a girl, he's all like, oh, hey, that's why I think you're so fine.
So kind of like the dynamic in the original Mulan with Shang, I believe his name was, and Mulan.
Yes.
So yeah, I was like Cody. I didn't realize that she was a girl. Although right before that reveal, I was like listening to her voice, and I was thinking that sounds like an actress doing the voice. But I kind of second guessed it because I thought, no, it's a boy.
Here's the thing with that, though. Like, when you watch this, when you've seen enough anime like myself, you become used to seeing girls play boys.
Yeah.
Because Boko, the voice actor for Boko in the Japanese version of the show is a girl. Because I looked it up.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, that's a very common thing in Japan. So for me and my brothers, we thought nothing of it. Now, granted, it happens here in the West, too, with Tara Strong playing characters like Timmy Turner or even in Jimmy Neutron. But still, it's definitely much more common in Japan than it
Not really, because a lot of voice actresses here in America also voice boys, too. Like, Great Delisle has done it. Cassie Souze. It goes on and on here.
Yeah. I've never seen Grey Delisle do that. I've only seen Tara Strong and possibly a few others. And
that's because Simpson.
Huh?
Say that.
Who did Bart Simpson, the voice?
Nancy Cartwright.
There we go. See, there's another one.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, well, I guess when it comes to animation for adults, that's not really a thing here. But even then, again, I don't know if this show's really aimed at adults. I get the vibe that's more for all ages, like Gamera in general.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's violent, and even though the dub added F-bombs for whatever reason, those are not in the Japanese version because the only swear word...
I was taken aback by that first minute. I thought, this is awesome.
But the thing is, here's the thing. In Japan, the only curse word there is kuso. That translates to shit. There's no other curse word in Japan. So that was all added.
Here's what I think it was. It was trying to add on to the 80s group kid adventure movies that I was talking about before. Because if you watch movies like Stand By Me and The Goonies and Monster Squad and Sandlot, those kids are cussing up a storm in those ones. They don't drop as many F-bombs, but at the same time, like this is a streaming show. You could do almost anything you want with it except make porn.
And that's also realistic because middle schoolers do talk like that.
Oh
yeah, absolutely. I know I cussed like a sailor when I was in middle school.
Yeah. And I also want to say the government dude played by Mamoru Miyano, who you might know as Haruo in the Godzilla anime trilogy, Light Yagami in Death Note, and
shit. I didn't know that.
I didn't at all.
You didn't know the government dude was played by the same actor as Light Yagami?
Well, because
I watched the dub, bro.
Yeah, me and Cody are uncultured swine, and we watched the dub.
I watched the dub too.
You are uncultured swines. He took the role but saying about Mamoru Miyano, he's a great actor. Like, he played a lot of iconic roles in Japan. He took the role serious enough, but he wasn't like that 24/7. It's nice when we're able to see a more comedic side of him when his claustrophobia is off, like he's motion sick or some shit. But it's really just he hates the sight of places. He hates tight places. So that's one of the things I did really like about him. He hates.
Which, by the way, that episode, the one with Zigra, I don't think maybe other people felt this way, but that was one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I really liked the cat and mouse thing they had going with Zigra while they were in the sub.
Yeah, because like I said, Mamoru Miyano.
I can agree. I think episode 4 is my favorite too.
But like I said, Mamoru Miyano plays it off like he's motion sick or something, but in reality, he just hates tight places, a lot like Cody, because he never been laid before.
Oh, man.
Takes one to know one.
I really
liked
episode 2.
The
one with John.
We talk a lot like the kids in the show.
Jiger. Sorry, why did I say Jigra?
It's okay. I want to see Jigra now.
Yeah, I used to think that's what its name was.
Yeah. Well, the one I was just referring to, which I think was 3 with Zigra. I've always liked Zigra, and I think actually all the redesigns for these guys was pretty cool. But no, go ahead, Zach. Elaborate if you want to.
I think it's the horror, like the horror aspect of the many Jigers in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what I really liked.
Yeah, which, it seemed like they didn't do the whole parasitic thing where Jiger sticks Gamera with her tail and, impregnates her larva in there like she did in show. But we did see the little Jigers before that, which if I remember correctly, one of them basically became like the Gauss in Guardian of the Universe, where they were basically the alpha of that group. And they cannibalized the rest of them, and that's how they grew to the size they were.
Yes, and I think that's what I like.
Go ahead.
I think that's what I liked about it, because I really like Guardian of the Universe.
Oh yeah, that's probably my favorite Gamera movie.
It's not mine though. Mine is Gamera.
Yours is G2, right? Yeah.
Yep, G2.
Yeah, I want to give that one another shot because for the longest time it was my least favorite of the 3, but I've been reconsidering it.
Hey Trev,
go ahead, Zach.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I think my least favorite is Iris.
That's a hot take.
I was my last little assessment. To be honest, I need to watch all 3 of them again to get a fresh one. My last assessment was that I think Iris is a good movie, but I kind of lean towards the first, in theory, would lean towards the first 2 more. And I was thinking about, I like the way the effects are executed in those movies more. The effects in G3 look really, really good, but it almost kind of crosses the barrier from being that tokusatsu appeal, at least in my opinion. And then it looks kind of just like, I don't know, something from Hollywood, which is like a great standard for a tokusatsu movie to reach, but at the same time, I don't know. That's just me. That's what I was thinking about the other day. Why I want to give G2 another shot because it is pretty close to the first movie in that aesthetic.
Yeah.
But
what were you going to say, Cody? You were going to ask me something.
Well, I wasn't going to ask anything. I was going to say that I agree with you that Guardian is my favorite of the bunch too. But
that was my first. That's probably why it's my favorite.
Right on.
It was made in my birth year, so I should have more attachment to it, but
Now,
it is what it is.
Now, when it comes to the animation in the show, the animation...
It's crap.
No, it's hit and miss, because the monster stuff looks fucking amazing. There's definitely lots of life put into the kaiju, as to be honest, Gamera shows more emotion than the humans. Like, Gamera smoothly moving his eyes around and more. While you do get subtle facial reactions from our cast of characters, but it takes just a few other frames just to get a slight change of emotion. But the thing is,
I was kind of downplaying that because usually that doesn't bother me. But then when I started watching this, I was like, it does seem a bit jittery to the point where I thought maybe my internet was buffering. But then I realized, oh no, that's just the way it looks.
Yeah.
The human animation is janky as hell.
Yeah, but like I said, the monster stuff looks great.
It does. I was going to expand on what I said. When I said it was trash, I was specifically referring to the human stuff, but the monster stuff is much better in my opinion. Not nearly as janky, more fluid, and like Joey said, you get more emotional reaction out of the facial expressions of Gamera than you do most of the human cast, which both surprises me, but it's also very welcome because, well, I like the kaiju to be characters as well, and that's why I like this so much, because Gamera is a character, and I really appreciate them putting that extra layer onto it.
Yeah, exactly. Like
you can see where the budget went into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either, like, the thing is, like, all the explosions going around a kaiju in such a short time span, rather it be from the military arsenal or the kaiju beam attacks, they're insanely detailed, from the dark orange, red coloring, and all the foggy smoke. It's kind of impressive, really. It just makes me feel like the kaiju stuff is what they were good at, while the human stuff, not necessarily in terms of animations, because, the whole thing, like, there's even the forest. The forest, I will say this, when the kids are in it, it almost gives off vibe of the aesthetics, like, it almost looks like a peaceful painting, and I say that in a somewhat good way, given the color scheme looks colorful as ones, and our characters blend in with it enough. I don't know if they hand drew them or if they just wanted to go with a stylistic CGI, but it really
Can I say something?
Let me finish just once.
Okay.
But it really worked in the 80s Goonies-esque flavor, I think was by design, or they were just lazy. I don't know.
I just wanted to say about that. Something about the forest scenes. Adding on to, again, the feel from those 80s movies. It's just like they have a treehouse in that forest. Like, the kids from Stand By Me had a treehouse, the kids from Monster Squad had a treehouse, and the kids from Sandlot had a treehouse. And then you have Stranger Things, which doesn't really have a treehouse, but they do have the sort of fort thing that Will built for himself with his brother. It's just like that even adds more to the feel of those kind of movies. I think that whoever was on the creative team for this might be a big fan, if not Stranger Things, those old 80s kid group adventure movies that I'm talking about. Because I also talking about episode 2, when they go into the sewers to try to find Jagger, that seems like something right out of Stephen King's It, be it the book or the 2017 movie. You all remember the scene from 2017 where they're trying to go into the sewer and they have the one like, hey, that's gray water. That means there might be poop. And then someone's like,
yeah,
does not smell like caca to me, senor. I was half expecting that to happen.
Well, to your point, Cody, they're definitely drawing on It as well. That's one of those other iconic, preteen 80s type of deals. Well,
right on.
Which version you watch. For the original version, they're kids in the 50s, but if you watch the remake, they're kids in the 80s. So.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do want to say, it's not just the human character. Like, there's other things that are poorly animated in the show, too, besides the humans. Like, when they dropped the crate to wake up Virus, I don't know what they did with the animation there, but with how the whole seemed, it seemed to have been sucking itself in. It looked like one of those free-to-use filters in a editing software. It looked like Trevor's pussy sucking itself in for protection when Cody tries to fucking violate it. It's that bad.
Wow, that is graphic, my man.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
So anyway, on the note of the animation, I think the little still shot flashback with Boko and Joe, that gives us a glimpse at how much better the characters could have looked had they been 2D.
yeah, I was thinking,
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, why didn't they go the singular point route where they have one animation company do 2D human characters and then have the other do all the 3D elements? It would have looked so much better that way. Because I'll tell you straight up, the animation from the Godzilla Polygon trilogy is ass, and to me, they took all the worst elements about the animation here and reasserted it here with these computer animated human characters that they're trying to get to look as much like 2D characters as they can, and it just doesn't work for whatever reason.
I assume it's because of budget.
Yeah,
and they didn't want to put too much into Gamera because, I mean, he's popular, but a revival is what's it called? Is
kind of a miracle if you think about it.
Yeah, it's a miracle, but that's not what I was looking for.
Well,
risk.
it's not necessarily as guaranteed as like one of the bigger. I mean, Gamera's iconic, particularly in Japan, but he's not. Well, think about like Ultraman. We got a whole bunch of new iterations of that, or Kamen Rider, and Godzilla's obviously still going.
Exactly. Like Gamera's iconic, but he's not on their level, though he is popular because me and this Japanese Tokusatsu fan, we follow each other. She messaged me and we talked about some Toku stuff. And one of the things she asked me about as an American, have I heard of Gamera and have I watched that trilogy? And of course, I brought up that I have. So he's still big over there, but I think since he hasn't had a new entry in years, he's not on their level yet. But if this brings Gamera back to popularity, he might be up in the top. He might be up in the top Toku icons again.
So I don't even think it's a budgetary thing, because I've actually gone down a rabbit hole after watching Rebirth and then finishing Pacific Rim: The Black. I've gone down a rabbit hole on Netflix and I've added a whole bunch of different similar animes to my Netflix list. Whether I watch them or not, we'll see. They just look cool whenever I was investigating. And it seems to be more a case of the Netflix association and what they choose as like a style for most of their anime. They seem to have a lot of stuff that combines 2D human characters with CG creatures or mecha. And then they have ones that are completely CG like this, or various others. And I think it's because they have a lot of deals with these studios like Polygon. MAPPA is one, if I'm pronouncing that right. There's a whole bunch of different Japanese studios that have this style, and a lot of their animes are on Netflix, it turns out.
Yeah.
So I've gone down that rabbit hole and I've said, oh, this reminds me of this, or this reminds me of that. And, anyway.
I do want to say, though, in terms of what Cody said about the Godzilla trilogy, I don't agree with the animation there, because the thing about the trilogy,
it sucks.
First of all, I'll talk about in terms of the animation of Tsushita as a whole. Hiroyuki Tsushita has a thing where he uses a lot of colorful lighting, like around the part when Gamera is on shore, you have all these blue sparkles coming down, or when they release the baby turtle into the river or whatever, the water is sparkling. Hiroyuki Tsushita is great with using colorful visuals in his animation, and those still look great here. They also looked great in the trilogy. And when it came to
they didn't.
Yes, they did.
They did.
Yes, they did. Like when Godzilla shot his atomic breath and everything just came blue, the whole lighting of the beam effect was reflecting the entire area. But the thing is, the trilogy as a whole, in terms of animation,
what's a polygon?
It looked way better. And I think it's because people at Polygon are better at animating than whoever animated this show. And that's the thing, because the thing about the trilogy, and granted, it might not seem fair that I'm comparing a movie to a TV show, but the thing is, the Polygon Godzilla trilogy, while they were movies, they were a limited run, and they all released at the same year. So the deadline and budget wasn't that much different than a TV show. So
limited run for limited quality.
so it's like if you want to see closer quality to the Godzilla anime trilogy's animation, there's Pacific Rim the Black. There is Ajin. There's also Blame. All of those, or Knights of Sidonia. All those are really good.
Knights.
Yeah.
Knights is good.
Yeah. Sashida also worked on and I don't know about all of them, but he worked on most of them at least. But when it comes to here, while you still have those Hideyuki Sashida aesthetics that are nice, like the well-animated kaiju and the beautiful lighting, you still have some really awkward things like the proportions. Like even on the first episode when Brody is moving his arms around, it looks uncanny. It's so weird. They shouldn't have made him move at all if they couldn't have done that right. And there's moments like you would have, like I know I praised the forest kind of looking like a storybook when the kids are in their own little tree house or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But this is an aspect that but then there's times it just looks bad. Like you have these CGI characters, these military people driving in a tank that is clearly CGI, in the background being 2D without any movement or such. It's just very awkward and unfitting.
Hey, Zach, let's get some of your thoughts because you've been quiet and this is something you really want to talk about. Say something.
Like the animation, I agree with you guys. The animation is so weird. Like some of the emotionless like faces on some of these people are scary.
It's even worse for background characters.
Yeah, like I need to watch it again just to get. I don't know. I might have nightmares.
Well, here's the thing. Even though the animation is admittedly limited in what it's able to do, at least with the human characters, I think that the writing and the execution of the writing and the acting more than makes up for it.
I agree. Yeah, the story was really good, and I really liked the story. It's what kept me in there. That and the kaiju animation.
Yeah, like for example, when I like how they animated Giron, like when he's moving his head up, you can tell he's very top heavy with how he struggles to move it up and slice it down. Like it starts off slow and then hits the ground fast to imply that there is weight there.
You mean like Aaron hits the ground fast when you jump on top of him to hump him?
Oh, fuck off.
Oh, dear God.
Because, like, it seems like they were only good at animating kaiju stuff and some other visuals, while the humans and some other things were just incompetent.
I honestly think... Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, yeah, and I really like... Speaking about Giron, I really liked how he's like a slinky. His body just like... It's like he almost had no bones in the middle.
Well, here's what my interpretation of it was. Someone saw that he could shoot ninja stars out of his nose in the original movie, and they're like, let's just turn him into an actual ninja, make him do all these crazy flips and shit, going, hoo-ah! And make his head basically like a katana, like a samurai katana, or whatever they call it. And it's just like, well, it was cool. It was funny, but also cool at the same time. You know what I mean?
One thing is for sure. I think he's the fan favorite because he's the one that's brought up the most, I think.
I think Zigra might be my favorite, at least in this show, as he still has enough of a resemblance to the original, but instead of the original's goofiness, he looks intimidating, and treating him like a sea monster, I thought was a very neat aspect.
Yeah.
Here's something I don't know if you... Depending on your interpretation. Sorry.
What?
Someone just did a big heavy sigh and they're probably annoyed I cut them off.
No, that wasn't at you or anybody. I don't know.
He took a deep breath.
Yeah.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Well, anyways, depending on how you feel about it, Zigra's design can either be really good or really bad. Now, to me, honestly, there are times where it feels like Zigra looks like a more aquatic Gaios, which is ironic since we actually get that later on in the show, and also has some physical details in common with Jiger, like having the stinger tail, like what Jiger has. At first, some people might see that as bad or kind of lazy. It's like, oh my gosh, why are do so many of these monsters seem like they're alike? Like with Jiger having mini versions of it running around like Gaios, and again, Zigra having Jiger's stinger tail, and also looking like an aquatic Gaios. But then when you start to think about it, it kind of makes sense because it's implied that all these monsters, including Gamera, have the same basic origin, like they came from the same source. If you stop and pay very close attention to some plot details that they put in there. So for that reason alone, any similarities that any of these monsters might have to each other doesn't bother me in particular, but I can understand how it could bother other people.
In a way, they're all kind of related.
Yeah, they all come from the same source, pretty much. And
Exactly.
That's a good point, Cody. Maybe people might complain about it. Of course, they're going to, because that's fandom. But Gauss, Jiger, and then Zigra, if you think about it, they kind of follow each other in the sequence of the show, and it makes sense that they would all kind of just be building up on the same, general kind of type of creature. I mean, Zigra could be viewed as like a combination of Jiger and Gauss, and the new thing about it is that it is aquatic.
You know
Go ahead.
You know what I was gonna say when you said that they all come from the same source? I was about to say that every person Cody ever fucked in his life, but I thought that was too mean.
All from your family.
So what breaks that up though is Guiron and Virus. And Virus, I thought it was really neat how they basically kind of did a MonsterVerse Ghidorah with him.
Yeah, but
I got a question for you. I got a question for all of you about Virus. How did you feel about the bait and switch at the end, where they made it seem like Virus was going to be the big bad? It's like, oh, they're taking the spotlight off Gaios and giving it to someone else. I can respect that. But then Gamera ends up basically one-shotting Virus in the end. How do y'all feel about that?
I didn't mind it, as it happened respectfully, and it made sense that there would be one more threat in there, especially since the final episode is basically like a reimagining of Gamera Super Monster, so it made sense they would bring in one of the oldies, but in a more modern form.
What about you, Trevor?
I think they were kind of it's kind of been established, maybe not officially, but Gauss is basically Gamera's Ghidorah. So they kind of had to make the final battle, or they didn't have to, but I guess they thought they might have needed to. They made the final battle a Gamera versus Gauss thing, and it kind of makes sense. Even if I would have preferred that Virus was a bit of a bigger threat and actually the proper final boss, because that's actually a pretty unexpected reinvention for that kaiju. I don't know, Super Gauss or S Gauss, according to the subtitles. They were pretty creepy, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of laughed after it got done eating all the remains off the launch platform, and then it jumps in the water and it looks like it just sinks for a minute. I actually audibly laughed when that happened.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
Same.
But yeah, it was, I kind of, in the back of my mind was thinking, yeah, we're probably going to see the Gauss again, because I think it was one of the middle episodes that kind of had the tease of the little one that the Foundation still had up their sleeve, so to speak. So I was thinking, yeah, the Gauss aren't going to be one and done. And it was an interesting it was a bizarre, shambling, kind of creepy final nemesis to end on. But I kind of like Joey said, it wasn't disrespectful. It was another kind of funny moment towards Virus, but I kind of would have liked it if Virus was not necessarily the mastermind, but was kind of like the final threat, because remember, that's the one that they were sacrificing all the children to.
Right. So, what do you think about it, Zach? I want to hear your take too.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I was kind of like shocked, like when Gamera just like slices through him. And I was like, okay, I thought that was the final bad guy. And then they introduced the Gauss, and I'm just like, okay, just rolling with it.
You're rolling with it because it wasn't bad. It's just
it was a nice surprise. I think it was a nice surprise.
Yeah. I just thought it was a funny bait and switch, and also, you know how you keep saying it, the subtitles on the Japanese version, Japanese audio of it says S Gaios. What if the S actually stands for C? Because it's a swimming Gaios.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yes.
But
yeah, they don't really fly that much, do they? They mostly swim and kind of come up on land, a lot like Zigra did.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my opinion on it is basically the same as all of yours. I don't mind it. I would have liked it if we got a bit of payoff for all that build up to Virus, but as it is, when Gamera sliced through him, I audibly laughed too. Same way I laughed when Seagulls, that's what I'm calling it from now on. It looks like he's about ready to fly, and then he just sort of belly flops into the water. So this show's actually really funny too. It has a lot of good intentional humor to it too. I gotta say.
Now I do want to say they managed to make fucking Virus awesome. He still has the basics of a giant squid monster that needs free, but not only now he can destroy the world apparently, but apparently they made him look like something H.P. Lovecraft would make. I think
it's actually kind of strangely appropriate. This is kind of going to be deep cut maybe, but do y'all remember The Future is Wild, that fake documentary? Or not a fake. It was like a theoretical zoology. It's like a whole little subgenre. But anyway, there's a segment in that where squids actually become like the new primates. They come up out of the ocean and they, basically replace what primates were in the past. And it made me think, squids or cephalopods, they're actually supposed to be really smart.
Yeah.
So it seems appropriate that this would be like the big boss, so to speak, or in theory it was.
Yeah, and I think this might be. I think giving a Lovecraftian-like treatment to old iconic monsters might be a habit of Hiroyuki Sashida, given he gave Ghidorah a similar treatment in the Godzilla anime trilogy.
Ramen noodles.
But I swear to God, that goofy Squidward-looking ass needed it more than anybody. Oh my God. Because Virus is goofy as hell in the original. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, although
document.
I do kind of miss the Jiger actually kind of took this role, but I do miss the whole idea of the Virans kind of coming together and becoming the giant Virus. That was something that I always liked about the original.
Yeah.
Right on. Oh, I also gotta say, the way that Virus was crawling out of that cylinder, whatever it's called, kind of reminded me of how Sulunga basically did the same thing in Singular Point. You remember that, Joey?
Yeah, me and my brothers even pointed that out when we were watching the show, for a matter of fact.
See, it's nice. So funny. Sorry, go ahead, whoever.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
No. So I was thinking when we were talking about the animation earlier, what really would have sealed the deal on this pretty much being perfect, in my opinion, is if it had that style that Singular Point did. Because not to throw Singular Point under the bus, but for me, it was just the physics of it all that kind of made that show lose its appeal for me. It wasn't awful, but it just kind of, if Singular Point had been more like this, then we would have two great Godzilla and Gamera animes, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, for speaking of the Gauss, I want to say the final one in this show, first I should say the first one. The first one is cool. The first one looks very Heisei inspired. You even have a lot of them, like in the Heisei era with one big main, while also having its own unique appeal to it. But the final one in this show might have taken, where did Trevor go? The final Gauss in this show might have taken the Heisei, might take this with a grain of salt. Might have taken the Heisei one's place as my favorite. He looks terrifying, and the Cobra inspiration just makes him all the more awesome. And I'm glad they justified its existence beyond it's just another Gauss. When my lady back. He looks
Joey, Zach's tablet is dying, just so you know.
Okay, well, let me finish my discussion on this, my analysis on this Gauss. And I'm glad they justified this Gauss's existence as more beyond it's just another Gauss. He looks fucked up, so having the organization bring it to life with experimentation was just clever writing. He looks like a freak of nature because that's exactly what he is, and it made Gauss the final boss in a more reasonable sense than he's just Gamera's iconic foe.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Right on.
Anything you guys have to say before we get to final thoughts and ratings?
Oh, there's a whole lot I could say, but I guess I'll point out some visual Easter eggs that I appreciated from the show. Like you said, there was that turtle at the beginning that was sort of semi-reminiscent of Super Monster and the first Gamera, and also from Gamera the Brave that they saved.
Mhm.
And then also the fact that Gamera has the fire fist that he had from Gamera 3 in it. I thought that was really cool. And also,
Oh yeah.
we see Gamera later on lose that same hand, the way he lost the hand also in Iris. And also, the final battle takes place on a beach shore by a lighthouse, sort of like the lighthouse from the first movie. Did you guys notice all that?
Yeah.
I actually did not notice the lighthouse from the first movie comparison, but you are 100% correct on that.
And when he gets infected by the seagulls at the end, and we think he's about to turn evil, he has the same coloration, or at least that's what the black and white of the original movie gives off. It makes him look like the Gamera from the first movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And I gotta say though, that's one of the few weak things about this show. I gotta say, as much as we've been praising it, the show does admittedly have faults, not just in the animation, but also, like Joey mentioned, like they don't fully explain the children. They don't also explain what this whole special coding is that Boko seems to have. They don't explain how he got it, why he has it, or anything like that. And another flaw in the writing is how they turned Gamera evil, only to turn him back to good, like immediately afterwards. I thought that was like, why is that in there? It doesn't have any space to breathe. So like, why put that in there in the first place? Why not just switch to immediately to Gamera sacrificing himself the way he ultimately ends up doing, which also broke my heart. I won't lie.
Yeah.
Definitely had much greater effect than his sacrificing Gamera the super monster.
For sure. But
hey, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Trevor. I want to hear what you have to say.
I was just going to say, let's cross our fingers for a season 2 and hoping that these questions that we have don't remain flaws and that they're elaborated on.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that a little baby Gamera hatches out of an egg is another Easter egg to Easter egg to Gamera the Brave.
And
Y'all
he
notice
looks
that?
like Toto.
He does.
Yeah.
Except he's not yellow.
Yeah.
but like I said, that only adds to my theory that the second season, if it ever comes, is just going to be the Heisei era condensed, because the new age Gamera is going to be created after the one that died, and it's going to be more cutesy and one that the kids had with them.
What I hope for is that, sure, if we are going to see Heisei monsters again, that's okay because they're cool. But I would kind of like it if they dug into the history of Gamera's, whole, production history, and they actually gave us some kaiju that we never actually got to see.
Like Gara Sharp?
Gara Sharp for sure, and there's a whole bunch of other obscure ones, like I was talking about in Discord. Gamera versus Barugon was originally supposed to be Gamera versus the Icemen. That could be a cool new factor. We introduce aliens, even though I really like the Eustace Foundation as something that kind of changed up the usual enemy faction thing. Aliens are classic, and this would be something that we hadn't seen before because it was something that they didn't use. There was also kind of Gamera's own version of Ghidorah. The I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a kind of dragon. Starts with a
The
W.
Wyvern?
The Wyvern, yeah. Or it was just called W, I think, in the script. But anyway, it was basically Gamera's Ghidorah, but it had 2 heads instead of 3. So really,
I would love to see that.
and I actually wouldn't mind seeing some other Dai characters pop up in this. Like, let's make Daimajin Gamera's Mothra, and have them team up and fight a bunch of monsters. I think
I
that'd
think
be
Alright.
Daimajin was originally gonna be a Gamera versus Daimajin film.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
What's
What's
up,
up,
Zach?
Guys, my son is like having a meltdown downstairs. I gotta go.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You
There's
want to
a
get your
pretty
final
heavy,
thoughts
man.
before you go?
I think I've gotten everything out. Like,
Oh, but like a rating.
a rating. Story wise, I think it's a 4. Animation wise, probably a 3. Yeah, that's my rating.
Yeah, fair
That
enough.
sounds
Fair
reasonable.
enough.
But no, if you have to go, man, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go, guys.
Have a great day, bro.
Stay
All right,
awesome.
you guys too. Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. It's been fun.
It has, yes.
Sure.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
See you.
All right, see ya.
Finish, Trevor?
Oh no, I was trying to help him out and get him to where he could go check on his kid, because watching my nephew, I know what it's like whenever they start crying. It's like you gotta go. We gotta go take care of it.
Oh,
For sure,
definitely.
for sure.
But yeah, in terms of that, in terms of everything, I do agree. Though something I do want to say, when people say, "Oh, the animation's better than the trilogy," it's like, quit lying to yourself. Like, just because the fight scenes are much more smooth here. Here's the thing: that's not an issue with animation. That is a difference of concept. Gotta remember, the monsters in a trilogy, by concept, are very slow, and basically they're not built off physical combat. So that's not a thing with animation. They don't like the concept, and it's okay not to like the concept, but that's not bad animation there. Just because they're slow, because they're supposed to be slow. That's the thing.
Yeah, because they're giant monsters, you know.
Yeah, like objectively speaking, that's not a flaw in the animation. That is a direction they took that you don't like. And like I said, it's okay not to like a direction, but don't point it out as a flaw in the quality of the animation when it has nothing to do with the animation.
I just can still see it as a flaw in the concept itself, because the point of fights in movies and shows is not just to be, oh, look, big old action scene, go brr. At least I never thought about it. Well, if you're going into a fight, it has to have some sort of emotional resonance to it. Like, it has to make you feel something. Like, oh, they got to the point where they can't hold back no more, and all of a sudden, and now they're fighting each other because, well, they're at their emotional breaking point. And for me, I feel like of a more all-out brawl, like what we get from the Gamera series, displays that better than monsters who barely move at all. It's
But
like
the thing is,
there's no emotional resonance there. There really
that's
isn't.
still not an issue with the animation, though. Like,
I didn't say it was. I said it was a flaw with the concept.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm just expanding upon my point there, because the point I was making
That's fair.
is it's not on the animation. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just wanted to explain myself better in case I wasn't being a good communicator or something.
You know what I think? I think y'all are a couple of mooks.
Mind your business. I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing, Georgia Brown.
But yeah, you guys have anything else to say before we get the final verdicts?
Having peeing your pants be such a big part of the emotional resonance of the backstory was an odd choice, but I'm surprised they made it work. Like, peeing your pants? Seriously? Who had to be smoking so much coke storing so much coke to come up with that? Like, oh my gosh, were brought together because one of them peed their pants. I honestly thought when that happened, it was just like setting up for payoff, setting up a joke that gets paid off when Brody ends up peeing himself later on in the same episode. But then they bring it back, and I'm just like, okay.
Hey, Cody, be thankful. Be thankful that it's not as obsessed over and almost fetish-like as it was in Tremors 5 and Tremors 6.
Fair enough.
I remember watching those and being like, damn, why is there so much piss jokes in this? But anyway.
But I mean, you will believe a boy peeing his pants will make you cry. That's all I'm gonna say.
He pissed his pants recently, so he knows that.
Quit projecting on me, you little bitch.
Little bitch.
Question, what do you think happens after we die? Well, Cody's mom will be sitting there waiting for me, as would Trevor's, and I'm having a threesome while Cody watches. Same with Trevor.
Oh, man. I'm going to go get my shovel and go dig a hole and dive into it.
Why not hit Joey with the shovel and then throw him in instead?
I don't need a shovel to dig.
Idea. Thank you.
Hey, I don't need a shovel to dig my hole. There's 2 holes right in front of me.
Oh, you're looking at the mirror at your head, huh?
I'm not going to even touch that.
But I guess this show, in so many ways, is a miracle. Literally, the only thing that's really holding it back, in my opinion, despite some things they could have tightened a bit with the writing, overall, the writing is an 8 out of 10 for me. Despite the animation sort of holding it back a little bit, the writing is overall fairly solid. Like, the execution of the concepts was overall fairly solid. The music was great. The pacing was almost phenomenal, except for what I pointed out about Gamera's temporary turn to evil. And it was fun. I enjoyed the main cast of human characters for the most part. And it has layered writing that makes you really think when you go back and rewatch it. So it's not just some dumb Kaiju Go Burrs type of show. If I were to rank this against all the recent Kaiju anime servings we've gotten so far, I'd say this is like top tier. I put it over the Skull Island anime. I put it over the Ultraman anime, which I never finished. I put it over the Polygon trilogy, which, as much as I was trolling Joey through this, it's honestly not my thing. And I would say Singular Point is better in writing, but I enjoyed Rebirth more. But in my opinion, SSSS, Gridman, and Dynazenon are still the top tier of modern Kaiju anime. So I hope we get a season 2. I honestly don't think we're going to, because the show hasn't generated a whole lot of buzz from what I could tell, which honestly makes me sad, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope we do get a season 2, and I hope it's as good as season 1 is, if not better.
You know what's really funny?
What?
Is that after this dropped, oddly enough, Pacific Rim the Black and Skull Island and a bunch of other similar animes started trending, but this one wasn't, which I thought was really funny, because I would have thought, okay, Gamera dropped, so that kind of got people in the mood to watch all these different kaiju and mecha animes. But it's weird because it's not in the top 10. I haven't seen it trending, which kind of sucks. But it's weird that these other shows just all of a sudden started trending again. But anyway, I thought that was weird.
It is weird. What the fuck?
Yeah, because I would have thought this would have been the catalyst for all that. But if that was true, then it would be in these top 10s or in the trending.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe people saw the Gamera thing, maybe checked it out for a bit, and they're like, this isn't for me, but I want something like this. And they went into the you may also like this section and watch those shows instead. It's possible.
Yeah, that could be, because watching this finally motivated me to finish The Black, and I loved it. So
right on.
Yeah.
When it comes to this show, I'd say it's good overall. Like, I don't think it's the best thing in the Gamera series. I think the entire Heisei era solos it, but it's definitely better than the show. It's a better version of the Showa era. And I think overall, it is a solid show. Like, the writing overall, while there is some plot holes and some rushed concepts here and there, as a whole, it's paced pretty tightly. It does a nice episodic thing by bringing in the basics of each movie's plot and their monsters into an episode while all tying to one connecting narrative. The monster redesigns are all really fucking awesome. The soundtrack is great, and also it's entertaining. The animation's hit and miss, because there's some things that look really good, as I stated, and some things that look really fucking bad. And it has some pretty exciting kaiju fight scenes. But one thing that makes this interesting is this definitely feels like what Godzilla the Anime Trilogy, it gives us a taste of what the Godzilla Anime Trilogy was going to be before Toho said, no, give us a new concept. And that's interesting.
Give us Shin Godzilla again.
Well, it definitely has elements from Shin Godzilla, but as a whole, it's still very different. But
I'm just joking around. I gotta say, just off the bat, if they were going to go that route with Godzilla, the original Godzilla project being like this, I would have preferred they did adult characters as opposed to kid characters, because while they worked here with Gamera, not so much with Godzilla, in my opinion.
Oh, here's the thing. I think they were still going to have adult characters and such. Just the thing is, there are some changes that went to it to make it more like the traditional Reiwa stuff spawned by Shin Godzilla. So, what this did, this took that original kaiju wrestling concept Hideyuki Tsuchida was originally going to go with, and I think they stylized it a bit, made some tweaks to make it more matching with Gamera, and that's why it follows children. And I really enjoyed that. And overall, it is pretty entertaining. Animation's hit and miss. Music's good. Fight scenes are exciting. Kaiju awesome. It's entertaining. I don't think it's the best kaiju anime to come out. Like, I think Singular Point, Godzilla Singular Point, and the trilogy are both better.
No, they're not.
I also think Evangelion is better.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Evangelion is fucking
Evangelion
amazing.
is underrated, is overrated, and I don't know, it's a hack.
Evangelion is a masterpiece.
Blah.
But Evangelion, the Godzilla animes, especially Singular Point, are all better than this. And
Gridman's better. Gridman's better than any of that shit. Gridman solos all that shit. Yes.
I'd say Evangelion and Godzilla Singular Point are better than Gridman.
Ha!
Might be below Gridman. Gridman might be better than the trilogy, maybe, but it's not better than Singular Point or Eva.
Yes, it is.
But what I would give this show, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good show. It's a welcoming return to an iconic character. I hope we get a season 2, and I hope we get some live-action tokusatsu stuff thrown in as well, like they're planning. It's a welcoming return to the Big Turtle, and I want to see more from it.
Oh, can I say how amazing, again, it is that we're getting all this stuff so close together? I mean, fucking... You could barely keep up. I mean, OmniViewer even had to, he was doing his episode by episode reviews of the show, and he had to fit in a little mention for the Monarch trailer in one of them. He's like, yeah, the Monarch trailer looks cool, but we're in the middle of the Gamera thing, so let's do that. It's fucking amazing. And we still got Godzilla -1 coming out and New Empire coming out soon, and the theatrical American re-release of Godzilla 2000. Holy shit, what a time to be a kaiju fan.
Exactly.
It's a new golden age.
It is truly an embarrassment of riches.
Exactly. Us kaiju and tokusatsu fans are eating very well.
Hell yeah. Trevor, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, so my final thoughts, I think y'all got into the nitty-gritty when it came to critiques, which I agree with a bunch of those. Although, ultimately, I don't really let them bother me, because...
Oh, they don't bother me either.
Oh, no, I got you. At the end of the day, I think this is my personal favorite of all the animes that we've received in recent years, that I've seen anyway. I still haven't seen Ultraman, and I haven't seen Gridman, etc., but I want to now. But yeah, I think this is definitely my flavor when it comes to kaiju stuff. I really liked what they did with everything. I wish we had been able to bring it up with Zach, but I wanted to ask him about the Eustace Foundation and all that. I really thought they were a neat concept that kind of isn't dwelt on too much in the genre, because it's usually aliens or just the basic kaiju threat, it seems like.
Look,
but I thought,
Trevor, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
It's aliens.
And I agree, the Eustace Foundation, great antagonistic force in the show. I agree with you full-heartedly.
For sure, yeah. And I think the genre should do more stuff like that, because I think I've told y'all before, like the Red Bamboo in the original Showa Godzilla series. I wish we had seen more of them, because, you know, there's some concepts that you can do to death, and I'm glad when they change it up. But yeah, this show is definitely my flavor when it comes to these animes, and I really do hope we get a season 2. But even if we didn't, it was a pleasure to have received this. And yeah, I want to watch it again whenever I can set aside some time for it. It was good. I'm going to go with a 5-star rating for it. 5 out of 5. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. Because yeah, even the stuff that is a flaw, it's a nitpick for me ultimately. And I just overall enjoy the whole package. So to me, it's a 5 out of 5. The other shows, the other shows, I kind of have to talk myself into watching again to give them another shot. But this, whenever I have the time, this will definitely be the one that I pick. I would actually say
the whole package when Cody sticks his dick in front of you.
I knew that was coming, but yeah, I would say this is tied with The Black, surprisingly enough.
Oh yeah, the Black's a great one too. If I was to rank the kaiju anime stuff I've seen, number 1 is either Evangelion or Singular Point. And then after those would be Pacific Rim the Black, not Dynazenon, SSS Gridman, this show, Dynazenon, then Ultraman. Oh, and then Kong Skull Island.
Right on.
It's funny, that's still trending, but it seems like it's the one where a lot of people just go, eh.
Yeah.
It's funny. Anyway.
Yeah, I gotta say, even though I like that show, it really has more flaws, in my opinion, on this show than this show did.
Yeah, exactly. The animation was more consistent. Like, let me tell you something about the animation. When this show's animation is good, it's better than the animation in Skull Island. But when this animation's bad, it's worse than the animation in Skull Island. So what we have here is a mix of something that balances animation-wise out with the animation of Skull Island.
All right.
It's funny. It's the same studio as Blood of Zeus and Castlevania, but clearly they were different artists, because you can tell when you watch Castlevania and Blood of Zeus that they're the same animators and whatnot. But then you watch Skull Island, it looks more like something like Netflix's Voltron show and a bunch of their other 2D animated stuff. It looks more like that. So it was
or Avatar.
Yeah.
J.S. Penna
there you go.
J.S. Penna said, saw the show, I liked it, thought the fight between Gamera and Virus could have been handled better, and thank God the kid characters weren't Kenny's. I also liked how Giron moved like a switchblade.
Oh, yeah, he kind of did, didn't he? We should do a podcast talking about the Skull Island anime sometime. I think that we could really dissect that one a lot like we did here and do it justice.
I'd say so.
But yeah. To close out, Giant Turtle is awesome. Exactly. Really neat and full of turtle meat.
Yep.
And that's the way it was. And that's the way, I like it.
Oh.
But anyway, unless anyone has anything more to say.
Joe, you're a bitch.
You, Trevor?
I concur with Cody.
But that was it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, share it around, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications. There's going to be much more content to come out on this channel. I have videos I have in the works. There's a video on why I dislike dub. It's almost done. I have a collaboration with Zimzilla99 coming up where I rip into Professor Otaku's awful video on villains. And of course, I have this massive collaboration in the work I can't wait to have out. Don't expect a video out right fucking now because there's a few of us here, but it's going to include me and some surprise YouTubers I'm not going to spoil. Some of them...
Hey, Orgy!
Some of them are pretty big names in the community. But look forward to that. And basically just subscribe for a bunch of nerd shit. I talk about a bunch of nerd content. A lot of what I go into is tokusatsu and things of that nature, but I don't consider myself a toku YouTuber. I consider myself a nerd channel. But anyway, this is Gojin the Makai Phantom. Oh, and join the Discord server. Leaving the building.
Stay awesome, people.
Peace.